What is going on to all my low-key Marvel MCU fans, and welcome back to our Thursday live streams where we talk about the latest MCU show, and we're talking Loki, and we're talking episode 5 of Loki tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Full spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode, go check it out, and then come back and watch the replay and join the conversation in the comment section. But if you guys are all caught up to speed because you're really diehard fans, you stay up to 3 o'clock in the morning watching these shows, where you are in the right place, and we're going to have a fun discussion because episode 5 had a lot to go over, a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of great character moments. I mean, this show is just really, really clicking on all cylinders, and this is the second to last episode, so hopefully they'll stick the landing next week. But listen, if you're watching this live, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, these are days to look forward to because these are just such a fun discussion amongst the panel and the guests that we have on. Of course, you all in the live chat, so I appreciate you guys tuning in. So make sure while you're watching this live to give the video a thumbs up. Have a great discussion in the comment section. We'll try to address any questions you guys may have for the panel, as well as share the video. Any MCU fan, Loki fan you know out there, share it to them, have them join the conversation, and of course, subscribe to not just my channel, but all the wonderful people that will be joining us tonight. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring in my first special co-host who joins us every single week and brings some amazing discussion pieces. She brings up her theories. She brings up what works for her, what doesn't work for her. She has an incredible YouTube channel. She writes some great articles. She's a great person all around, and so excited to have her on every single week, and so excited to hear her thoughts on this new episode of Loki. I'm talking about the one and only Amanda. How we doing, Amanda?
I'm good. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday.
The best day of the week.
It is. You know, Marvel switched it up on us. It's, Wednesdays are the new Fridays and Thursdays are the new Saturdays. So, hey, they're flipping everything upside its head. Just like this episode, everything's turning upside down. Everything's different.
It's crazy.
Hey, Amanda, if this is someone's first time tuning into our live stream, if you want to let them know where they can find your content and what you're all about, let them know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you guys can always find me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can check out my website, candidcinema.com, and my YouTube channel, Candid Cinema. I have my Black Widow review up right now. So, yeah.
Black Widow, that is, ladies and gentlemen, I believe it's out tonight in some theaters across the world, and we talked about it, our spoiler-free thoughts last week, and we have a discussion went on Mama's Geekly's channel on Sunday, but I'm excited to hear a lot of people's thoughts on Black Widow and all the stuff we got with that film. So, but so happy to have you on, Amanda, and can't wait to get your thoughts on tonight's episode of Loki. So that is one of two of our co-hosts. Bringing in my second co-host, who is representing the East Coast, has some great, incredible takes on this. He's been enjoying this show much more than he was Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I'm excited to hear his thoughts on this episode that we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about the trailer we got from What If. And this guy's awesome. I'm so excited to have him on every single week. I'm talking about the one and only Chris from Tait. Tait, what's going on, my friend?
What up?
What up, man?
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, my friend. How we doing today, man?
I just came rushing in watching Black Widow.
You've seen it?
I was late.
Oh,
I just came out. I did the first New York City show.
Early.
IMAX.
Yeah.
I am now here.
Awesome, man. We might have to get a quick little mini review from you. I know you'll have some content coming up from that, and also, of course, you'll be joining us on Sunday. Excited to hear your thoughts, man.
Yeah, are we doing that later? But we'll talk about it at some point.
Yeah, we might give you the little solo and hear Mr. Tate's take on Black Widow. But hey, man, if you want to let people know what you're about, when they can find you, my friend, go right ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to be here. Of course, as always, you can find my information in the description here. But I am Chris Tait, representing Tate's Take. I do TV shows, movie reviews. I try to give you a little background on the content and then just give you my take, my personal opinion on the stuff. So if you're into that, make sure to subscribe. I got stuff pretty much every week. So really excited to start talking about second to last episode of Loki here. So let's get it.
Yeah, man, we got a lot to break down. I mean, there was just Easter egg after Easter egg. We got classic Loki. We got alligator Loki. So much to go over, man. And I'm so excited to have you guys with us discussing this episode. So these are the amazing co-hosts. Again, I'm so appreciative to have them on every single week and can't wait to talk about this episode with them. But we not only have some amazing co-hosts, but we like to bring in guests on these discussions. And this gentleman here, he's been on the channel quite a few times, and I've been on his quite a few times. It's been a minute. He's been killing it right now in the YouTube space in regards to his video essays top notch. I mean, if you guys want a deep dive on 007, MCU content, your latest movies, I mean, this guy has it covered, and he is an incredible person, an incredible content creator. I'm so excited to have him back on the channel. Talking about the one and only Griffin from FilmSpeak. What's going on, my friend?
What's up? Hey, man. Thanks.
Hey.
Dude, the intros on your channel are the best. You boost us all up.
Hey, man, you guys are awesome, and I'm so appreciative to have you guys on. So that's the best I can do, man. That's the best. But how we doing, Griff?
Of course. I'm doing good, man. I'm really stoked to be talking about Loki because we haven't talked about this show all season, I guess for the entirety of its run. So I actually I've purposely done this, but I don't know where each of you sort of land when it comes to the show. So I'm curious to hear how we're all feeling about it.
Hey, man, I'm excited to have you on, Griff, and see where you're at with this show and obviously break it all down with you, my friend. But hey, man, Griff, this is the first time they're checking you out, man. Let them know where they can find your awesome content.
Yeah, so you can head on over to the FilmSpeak channel and find out all the content we're putting out there. We're doing like video essays, deep dives on basically a weekly basis. If not weekly, it's like bi-weekly. I put out our most recent one is the one on Black Widow and why I think it's actually worth a shot and you shouldn't write it off just because it's too late. So you can go check that out after you've seen the movie or beforehand. It is spoiler-free over on the FilmSpeak channel, and then we'll have one for Loki coming out next week. So cool stuff coming your way.
Definitely. Again, all the links to Griffin, Chris, and Amanda's information is in the bio, and you guys should check them out. You won't be disappointed. So last but not least, this gentleman here, I have been a fan for such a long time. I've had the opportunity to be on a couple different live streams with them, with a couple different people we know, but I've been watching this channel for a while, and you talk about energy, knowledge, having a great community that he's built. The man's on the news talking about one of the things I'm loving that he's supporting, which is the recasting of T'Challa, which he'll probably talk about. But he's coming from my hometown, and I'm so excited to have him on tonight. A big fan and excited to hear his thoughts on Loki. Talking about the one and only Eman from Eman's Movie Review. What's going on, my friend?
What's going on? Thank you so much, man. Them intros for real. Like
I try, man. I try.
I'm good.
I try.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Peace out.
Hey, man, we'll catch you next time. How we doing, E-Man?
I'm good, man. I appreciate the invite.
Oh, no doubt, man. Like I said, big fan and so excited to hear your thoughts on Loki and What If and all the stuff we'll get into tonight, man. But hey, I wouldn't be surprised if they've already subscribed to you, E-Man, but just in case someone just opened up a Gmail account and they haven't been on YouTube ever, where can the people find you and what are the wonderful things you offer to this space?
Yeah, for real, Eman's Movie Reviews, we do everything and anything, whether it's movie theories, movie reviews, the news. I mean, we doing live chats and stuff after Loki, after a lot of the Marvel shows. Every Friday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're doing little wrap-ups of the news and entertainment world, and we just come together and have a good time. I mean, ask anybody that's joined live. They've had a good time. It's a blast. You don't want to miss it. But just as a little teaser, and this is an exclusive just for your channel, I need y'all to tune in if you have not. In the next couple weeks, I'm going to have a very interesting interview coming up. You don't want to miss it. I can't even tell you what it's about because I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but you're going to want to see it. So there you go, exclusive. Just for
you guys heard it here first. E-Man bringing that fire as he always do. I can't wait to see what that is. But again, guys, check out his channel, Griffin's, Chris, Amanda's. These are some of the hardest working YouTubers I know, content creators I know, and also what makes it even better, they're great people. So you want to check them out. You want to support them. You guys will not be disappointed. So kind of the cat's out of the bag. You guys can kind of see the banner behind us, but I figure we kind of talk about this. You know, we are talking Marvel. We got a new trailer for a new series, the What If series, which I'm very excited about, but I haven't seen the trailer yet. Amanda, Chris, Griff, E-Man, have you guys seen it quite yet?
I haven't.
Yeah,
E-Man saw it?
I have.
You have? Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Well, hey, if you guys are in mind and we can rewatch it, revisit it together and see what it's about and get you guys' take on it. And then also, I want to know what Chris thought about Black Widow. So we'll dive into that a little bit after you watch this trailer. But also, just a quick shout out to everyone. We got 32 people watching live again. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure, again, that you're liking the video, sharing the video, and more importantly, subscribing to all these wonderful content creators. So let me go ahead and bring up this trailer, and let's see what If is all about.
Do we know each other?
Time. Reality. It's changeable.
Where you want to be? That's the question, isn't it?
Every universe is different. Each one unique.
Slow down a little bit. There's a few people in the room that don't understand. Not me, I get it.
Who are you?
The name's Captain Carter.
Scheiße.
I am the Watcher. I observe all that transpires here, but I do not, cannot, will not interfere. I guess I have to freestyle then.
We have you outnumbered.
A Ravager never flies solo. I said never flies solo.
Is that some kind of catchphrase?
You had me worried for a second.
Journey to face the unknown and ponder the question.
What if? All right, Marvel. I see what you're doing. Okay, this is looking dope, guys. I'm really excited for this. Amanda, your thoughts on this What If series, which is bringing us all of the characters we've come to love in the MCU, but what if things were differently? What do you think about this trailer?
It looks awesome. Like I'm impressed. It looks really good. The animation style is awesome too, and it's great to see these characters again, especially Black Panther and Chadwick and Star-Lord kind of position. So it's going to be cool. I'm excited for Peggy Carter as well. I'm excited for all these alternate versions of these characters. Again, like we're looking at Loki with the multiverse and like these endless possibilities. So there's even more possibilities, and it's wicked.
Wicked is a great word. I mean, we just mentioned Peggy Carter. We got Captain Peggy Carter, Chadwick Boseman, who we'll talk about here. This was his last, one of his last performances before, obviously, we know that he passed away. Rest in peace to the King, T'Challa. Josh Brolin as Thanos. We got Howard Stark back, Hank Pym, Grandmaster. I mean, literally, I'm looking through this list. Pretty much everyone's coming back, which is really exciting. Chris, my man, what did you think about this trailer? And are you excited for this What If series?
Yeah, I had no idea that this existed, and then I was scrolling on Instagram today, and I saw the reel, and then I saw Stark come in, and I saw the Stark Industries thing, and I saw like Killmonger pick it up and throw it, and then it's like you had to click that button to like watch the rest of it, and I was like, this is a lot. I can't. I'm not ready for this. So that's all I saw so far. But yeah, this looks fire. I had no idea this was coming, and the fact that they have the voices is even better. So it should be dope.
Yeah, man, the voice is coming back, and again, it's gonna be an emotional journey seeing Chadwick Boseman, who is, as the trailer shows, is Star-Lord in this particular What If story. So I guess he was taken from Wakanda and picking up by the Ravengers and going on a galaxy quest. So that would be really, really dope. And we see from the poster here, again, we mentioned Peggy Carter. We got a different Doctor Strange is going down an evil route. We got some zombies. Griff, man, how you feeling about this?
I've been pretty much stoked and on board for this show since it was initially announced, and I mean, like because I think the last time I saw footage from this was when it was like Comic-Con like 2 years ago, and they showed like some of the zombie stuff, like Peggy Carter as like Captain Britain or like whatever, and I thought that looked like super cool. And honestly, I think the angle of the section of this I am most excited for is like Peggy as like Captain Britain. I think that is like they're gonna and like seeing how they're gonna incorporate Steve Rogers into the mix, because he's gonna be skinny Steve Rogers using like an Iron Man suit or something. So there's like a bunch of like interesting things going on there, and this is like I don't know. I mean, you definitely could do this in live action, but I don't think it would work as well as what they're doing right now in animation. They can go all in, go crazy, and then having someone like Jeffrey Wright be the voice of the Watcher is just a stroke of genius. And then, yeah, you know, Chadwick with his final performance as T'Challa, I think will be very emotional for sure.
100%, man. And I'm looking at it now. August 11th is the release date, consisting of 10 episodes weekly. So Marvel's doing that whole weekly thing, which I love the discussion there. But they're also greenlit for a season 2, which will consist of another 10 episodes. So, Eman, we got this trailer, 10 episodes a week. Is it at all attached? I know it's part of phase 4, but are we connecting tissues? Is what happens in Loki affected by this show, or is this just a what if Elseworld type of situation?
That is the biggest question that I have no answer to. I have no idea. And it is something I'm wondering, right? Like, you know, when you talk about like what are our expectations for this, I don't know what to expect because I don't know if this is connected. I don't know if it's just filler. I don't know if it's like Loki blows up the TVA, multiverse happens. Maybe we get a glimpse of all this stuff at the very end of Loki. And we're like, hey, what about that and that and that? And Marvel's like, we got it covered. Here it is. So I don't know what we're going to get with it. But in the meantime, I am just going to sit back and enjoy the ride. You know, there's a lot of different things here, at least from this trailer. I'm pretty sure a lot of people can be entertained by. There have been all those theories out there about Killmonger. What if he came back and he was Black Panther? It's looking like they're going to give that to you, which kind of gives me the impression that that's not what they're going to do in the actual Black Panther sequel. So maybe they're like, here you go, but we're going to do something else. And that could be the case with other stuff, you know, like, you know, with, well, I forget the other one. They're doing the Marvel zombies and stuff as well. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to just seeing all of this. I'm still a little iffy on the animation, to be honest. It's kind of giving me that, what is it, the Death Kill Robots or whatever the Netflix thing, you know, it's kind of giving me that vibe, and it's not bad, but it's something I know I'm gonna have to get used to. But yeah, other than that, like, I'm here for it.
Griff, you had something to say about the animation?
Real quickly, the animation style. It reminded me of that. Did you guys ever watch that Tron show that was on Disney XD when it first came out? It was like really, really weird, and I feel like this is like the next step up from that. So it's like it looks a little bit better, but I totally get what you're saying about it just not being quite there. I personally would have loved to have seen like a 2D animated style show, sort of like the gosh, I forget his name. The guy who did like Samurai Jack, the Clone Wars stuff, the 2D Clone Wars stuff. That would have been really, really cool.
I'm actually a fan of what they're doing with the Castlevania studio. If they wanted to do that, I'd be on board 100%.
That's still on my watch list. I've heard nothing but great things about Castlevania. It's on the list for a while.
Hurry.
And you know, we briefly touched on it, and just going around the panel, starting with you, Amanda. You know, we talked about Killmonger, as Eman brought up, and this is the last time with Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, as Star-Lord. Hearing his voice, you know, and seeing that character, obviously in animation form, it's great to see, but it still kind of, you know, brings up that I just still can't believe, you know, he's no longer with us. But as far as that character goes and what if series, what are you most excited to see with this series? What if scenario would you like to see play out within this series?
Oh man, there's so many, and like I like T'Challa as Star-Lord. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to kind of take him out of there, and like it's obvious it's Chadwick, so hearing his voice is like it's going to be emotional. So it's probably going to be the best episode, like in all honesty. But yeah, I'm behind Peggy Carter 100%. I think that's going to be wicked. I'm excited for her. I want to see more of Peggy Carter, and we got Asian Carter, and that got axed, so fun times for everyone. But yeah, I'm happy to see her back. So those are like my right. So those are probably my two that I'm most looking forward to.
Chris, man, any particular story you're looking forward to? Are you looking forward to Ant-Man jumping in Thanos' ass and in Infinity War?
Yikes! No, not at all. I don't know. I just want to see like my favorite characters like as part of their show, like Vision, Loki, Thor. I want to see like is Hulk in that trailer? Did I see Hulk? Is Spider-Man in that trailer?
He's on the list of people who can expect to see yet. Yep.
Okay, yeah. I just want to see all my guys and gals do their thing in this, unique way. And I'm glad that it's not live action because it could just be random and crazy instead of, So I like the way they're doing it.
No, I agree. Griff, man, what's one story you're looking forward to seeing being displayed in the show? And you mentioned earlier Jeffrey Wright. I mean, come on, you get the man's voice as the I mean, come on, this is gonna be awesome. But what are you most excited to see, man? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think as of right now, definitely the Peggy Carter, like Captain Britain stuff, just because I think there's a lot of interesting and cool things you can do playing around in like an alternate version of the 40s. Yeah. And I don't know if they showed this in the trailer, but like the stuff with her fighting with skinny Steve Rogers in like an iron mech suit is like that totally steampunk, and I'm like so down for that. I think that's different and interesting.
Yeah.
And then honestly, probably the Killmonger stuff, just because I love that character, and I feel like seeing him in had his life gone a different way will be really interesting. The thing that I'm a little interested about with that is that like just the sort of thing that he believes in and sort of like his creed that he follows. It feels like he wouldn't be the kind of person to save Tony Stark, right? Who's sort of like a war profiteer. I'll be kind of curious to see how that dynamic shakes out, because I'm sure they have answers and there will be like a conversation about it. But I don't know. That was one thing I was thinking about. Was like, oh, well, Killmonger is like a vet. Like he fought in the war, and like here is this billionaire who's literally profiteering off of like the sacrifices he's made. So I don't know. I feel like there could be a lot of cool things to explore with that.
That's a good point. Good point. Before we go to Eman, we got Michael in the chat who brings up a good point in regards to it was kind of weird in regards to not hearing Tony Stark, but Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, and also Paul Bettany. That wasn't Vision's voice, so that is very interesting. And I know there's been like rumors. What did I read on Instagram that Robert Downey Jr. unfollowed all of the MCU? It's like, who cares? He probably doesn't even run his own account. True. Eman, man, what's one of the stories that you're really excited to see this show tackle in this What If series?
One of them. That's such an unfair question. All of them. All of it. Like, what? Right. Like, no, I'm feeling just like Chris. Like I kind of want to see how all these different things change, right? I want to see like at what point does Killmonger flip? Is it before or after he started putting all those wounds on his body to mark all his kills? Was it when he, as a kid, maybe they just brought him back and he never did go do all that stuff? Like, I want to know that. I want to know the Marvel zombies, because I don't know if Marvel has the guts to do a live action Marvel zombies movie. So, even the whole Peggy Carter, Captain America thing, like, I feel like they're going to flip it and kind of make it like Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor, and kind of give me that vibe, with that. So, and of course, with T'Challa, doing the Star-Lord thing, I mean, the one thing that immediately hit me, well, besides the whole, feeling for Chadwick and all that, was just like, oh my gosh, this is why representation matters. I now can see myself as Star-Lord. I now can dress up as Star-Lord and not feel weird or awkward because I don't look like Chris Pratt or somebody else. I can totally do this now. And I'm just sitting here like getting goosebumps, because this is what we talk about when we say representation matters when you see it on screen. Now, other young girls will look at Peggy Carter and be like, wow, I can be Captain Britain now. Like, this is what I wanted to see. This is how comics, movies, entertainment should have always been 100%. If discrimination and all that stuff had never existed. So I'm loving what this is bringing forward. It's showing people possibilities, because we don't usually believe things until we see it. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I don't have one story. I'm sorry, but I want it all. I want it all.
Well said, man. I'm excited for it. Again, the question of the day is this at all connected to the Marvel timeline that we know? I think Eman touched on it. Is it something from Loki, right? Is it something from episode 2 with her throwing the time reset bombs, and we're watching that in live action, or watching that as the time goes by, and this is the result of that? So it'll be really interesting to see how all that shakes out. If it's not connected, I'm fine with it, but if it is, it's really interesting to see how they tie that together. So let us know if you're watching this on the replay, your excitement level. What are you most excited to see in this series? Let's have some dialogue around that. So let's get into the topic at hand, which is Loki. Before we do so, quick shout out to Oh yeah, with the super chat there. I'm late, but I made it. Eman in the house. I was hoping he was your special guest. Yes, Eman, Griff, they are special guests, as you guys can see. So excited to hear their thoughts on it, and of course our amazing co-hosts Amanda and Chris. So thank you so much for the super chat, and thank you for tuning in. And now, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we're about to transition into Loki episode 5, which was titled Journey into Mystery. Starting with you, Amanda, just your first initial thoughts after you got done watching this episode. Where are you at with this show? It's crazy.
Yeah.
We got some stuff to talk about.
Well, first off, I woke up again at 4 o'clock in the morning for absolutely no reason at all. But I have no idea why. It's like an internal clock. I didn't plan to wake up at that time, but I'm like, you know what? I'm up. The birds are chirping. Let me just watch the new episode.
That's the missed minutes alarm clock.
Yeah, literally.
There you go.
So I'm like, I'll watch it. This episode was amazing. I loved everything that happened in this episode. Loki is like, I'm going to put Falcon and the Winter Soldier to the side because it's what it is for me. I'm just not even going to include it in the conversation. But I'm liking this better than WandaVision. And there's just so much to unpack. I love Tom Hiddleston. He gets better every single episode. Not that he wasn't great before, but he's just he's fantastic. And I love this episode. I think it's my second favorite of the season, next to episode 4.
Hey, Chris, she brought out Falcon and Winter Soldier, man. We know how near and dear that is to her. So to bring that up, man, that's really interesting. But Chris, man, your take on this 5th episode, man, if you want to rank it as far as where it's at for you and just how you felt after watching this.
All right. This episode, to me, and I mean this in a good way, kind of. This episode was kind of like Walmart, where like there's so much shit in Walmart, and there's like a lot of confusing shit, and like, but there's shit that you need in Walmart. Like everybody goes to Walmart, but I was in the episode like, yo, like what aisle am I in? Like, what did I come here for? Like by the end of it, I was like, okay, there's some important shit that I needed here, but there was a lot of scenes where I was just like, I don't. This is a lot. This is a lot for me. Like a lot. We'll get into it. I love Kid Loki. Mm-hmm. I love. Our Loki in this episode. Love getting Mobius back in the fold. Sylvie, even though all I wanted for them to do was make out, didn't get that. So there's a lot of good things that I liked about it, but I was very confused. It's definitely not my favorite episode. I don't know if it's my least favorite so far. I mean, this is it's a good series, and I'm a big fan of the show so far. I just have a high standard, but it's definitely not my favorite. I was just left kind of confused, and I'll pass. Walmart.
I love the Walmart analogy there. That's a really good one there, Chris. Griff, man, after finishing, well, I guess since this is your first time really having a discussion about it, Griff, I know you have a deep dive coming up the next week, but just where you are with the show thus far, and then, of course, your thoughts on episode 5.
Oh, I'm loving it. Like, I'm in the camp where I think this is like one of the best things Marvel's ever produced. I mean, okay, look. There's still one more episode left, so it could completely fall off the rails as we saw with WandaVision. But I don't know. I can't see that happening only because I feel like this show is it's in a better position, right? We kind of know what's going on. The secrets have sort of been revealed. The only one we don't know is like who is manipulating everything. I think what I've loved most about this show, and this episode in particular, is just how it balances these really deep and intimate character moments. Like I would go as far as to say like 75% of the show is just like really philosophical conversations that like let us into the mind of Loki, Mobius, Sylvie, and all these other characters. And then, like, the rest of the time is this just weird, wacky, like, Doctor Who, like, spectacle, which is fun. And it's also the first time, this episode in particular was the first time where I was like, wow, these shows are legitimately competing with the quality of the films. I really saw the budget and the grandiosity on screen, and I loved that. This one was sort of interesting. This episode in particular was really interesting because I enjoyed seeing the different versions of Loki, and it was almost like a physical representation of like the different aspects of Loki's sort of personality. Like they are all sort of the same person, but it's like, okay, this is what would happen if this trait sort of was pushed to the forefront a little bit, and this would happen if this trait was pushed to the forefront. And I especially enjoyed like seeing Richard E. Grant as like the older Loki. I mean, first of all, the happiest man alive when he's acting, like he just is enjoying himself. But like his scenes in this episode were so integral, I think, to just like Loki's journey going forward, and then just like seeing a guy who was literally just like done everything he can to just stay alive and like just do things that only service himself, seeing him lay down his life and sacrifice himself for something greater, it was really beautiful to see. And I think that's something that'll definitely follow Loki and everyone else sort of like going forward into the finale. So I'm a little bit of a long-winded answer there, but I'm loving the show, and I think this episode for me, I don't know which episode is my favorite, but this one is definitely in contention for my favorite of the season so far.
Hey, man. Hey, that was a lot of good stuff said there. And we'll definitely talk about Richard E. Grant as how he's able to pull off that ridiculous-ass costume and to pull off that performance is something to be in awe of. But, Eman, where were your thoughts before going into episode 5 and then after you got done? And are we expecting to stick the landing next week in the finale?
Yeah, so, I mean, for the series, going into this, I mean... Episode 3 might have been the lowest I've seen in a Disney Plus series thus far. Like, don't get me wrong. I have to deep dive into all of this, so I'm going to find some good regardless.
Yeah.
But if we're comparing it to everything else, it was a very huge letdown. I've seen more people disappointed by an episode in episode 3 than anything else. So there was nowhere else to go but up, right? And episode 4, which to me is still one of my favorites of this episode, of this series so far. I thought it was going to be hard for 5 to top 4, mainly because I was going into 5 thinking your whole job is to set us up for 6. Like there's nothing else you can do that's going to shock us after 4. You're going to have to do something to tease us for 6, because now the real onus of this show is going to be on episode 6. It's going to be, who is this, big bad? What is really going on with the TVA and the multiverse? And what is it how is this going to push the MCU at large moving forward? So there's a lot of stuff to wrap up in maybe less than 50 minutes in the next coming episode. So that's why I didn't really think too much about this episode. But this episode was just fun. It was just there. I like the Walmart analogy as well. I felt like this was, more like Olive Garden. I filled up on the bread. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really get my main meal. Right? I'm full, right? Like, they was like, yo, unlimited Easter eggs. Here you go. It's all for you, So we got all those fun little things. It was kind of skimpy on plot. It was a little interesting with the character development. I agree with Griffin about the idea of the reflections of Loki, with his variants and stuff. I thought that was really key. I hope people didn't miss on that, because that was a criticism I had for episode 4, which was they were doing way too much direct therapy with Loki, just saying like, hey, I'm a narcissist. Yeah, I'm loathing. I'm doing, and I'm like, let us learn that indirectly, and I think we got that with this episode, and for me that was the best part of it. But again, that's another long-winded answer, sorry for that, but
I'm loving
but that's what I enjoyed most.
Just to kind of go off of what he was saying, just in terms of just like being told stuff in episode 4, normally I would 100% agree with you, but I think for the character of Loki, I actually like the fact that like he has to actually acknowledge, he's like, this is everything that's wrong with me. Like, I'm just laying it all out there, because Loki is so just like, conniving and squirrely. It's like, he's going to find a way to just like not admit or find a way to, not admit that he's wrong or in any capacity. And so I think like those moments where he is like saying like, I'm a narcissist, I'm lonely, I have a little bit of self-loathing, like all this stuff, I think actually was important to the growth of the character. I mean, ultimately, we'll see what happens in the finale, but I definitely get where you're coming from, though.
Well, let me just respond to that. I don't have a problem with the fact that it's revealed. I just thought it was too early. I don't think that this early, all of a sudden, you're having all these breakthroughs. Don't get me wrong, I'm here for it. Like, we want to discover these characters, but I just didn't feel like it was earned yet. If he had came to that conclusion in 5, cool. Like after seeing all these Lokis and being like, gosh, I'm really that bad. Like, you know, then I think it would have been earned. So, but yeah, I totally hear you as well.
No, for sure. And I think that's a good point because I was sort of expecting, you know, when he met the other Lokis to sort of have this
come at that moment.
Yeah, this sort of like come to Jesus moment, this self-realization. And I think he does to an extent, but it's way, like you were sort of saying, the stuff that happened in 4, I feel like if that had sort of happened in a less literal therapy session, that might have been a little bit more impactful. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that kind of speaks to, again, the whole 6 episode, you know, episodes 6 or 4 and 5 are essentially 7 and 8 of a 10 episode series. So it does kind of put a little pressure on that story narrative there. But, you know, just before we dive into it, I've said it on my review and had the opportunity to be on some other panels yesterday. To me, this edges out my number 1 episode because I geek out about production stuff, and I thought like episode wise, this was like one of the best produced episodes of a Disney Plus show to date. Yeah. That score from I keep forgetting her name. The score that she is delivering is top tier MCU score for me. Like if Alan Silvestri doesn't come back for Avengers 5. Sign her up, bring her up, get her to the MCU stuff because that score just hits on another level. I thought we'll talk about the shot selections and all that, but from that, and you guys hit the nail in the coffin in regards to the character moments. Classic Loki, his whole arc in this whole episode, and again, Richard E. Grant in the performance. Loki learning from that, getting a little bit of Kid Loki, who we'll talk about him and hopefully get more of him in the future. But character moments, dialogue moments, and Eman touched on it. This is a comic book's, dream. This was just Easter egg after Easter egg on top of having some pretty good story to add on top. So I thought that from, like I said, this episode from production standpoint was almost flawless in my opinion. But listen, we got to break it all down and hear you guys' thoughts on all this. Starting off with this recap, guys, as the episode opens up with this shot number 1 of upside down, which I think is a great kind of, I don't say metaphor, but symbolizes where this show is at with our characters. Everyone's world's been kind of turned upside down, from Mobius to Loki to Sylvie to everyone in the show. The world's kind of turned upside down as the shot pans into one of our Easter eggs that we'll talk about here, but a Kang, a little Easter egg on the Avengers Tower, which we can talk a little bit about later, what that could potentially mean. And I need to know if you guys think Kang is coming or not, because we'll get into all that. But as Loki has arrived to the Void, he's introduced to these 3, or I should say 4, because he can't forget about Alligator Loki. He's introduced to them, and the first thing he says, "Where am I? Who the hell are you all?" And Richard E. Grant says, "This is the Void, and that is Alioth, and you need to come with us if you want to live." So great opening to this episode. Just really gets me going in regards to, again, that shot and opening up to the Void and introducing to this incredible being, which to my knowledge is something that can't be really tamed. So it's really interesting to see whoever does tame this beast might be someone we should be afraid of. But as we kind of move forward within this, Amanda, going into this opening sequence here from that epic score, meeting every one of our variant Lokis, and as we see on the screen now with Sylvie having this conversation with Renslayer, how are we feeling so far in this episode?
It got me hyped right off the bat because, as you said, like the camera turning, everything's upside down. I was like, what's going to actually happen in this episode? So it hooks you like right then and there. And then the score is just brilliant, as you said. And then as we're going into the Void, basically, I love that entire shot. The whole thing was like fast paced. We're going, Loki asks all these questions, and then like classic Loki answers it really quickly, and like you have to go with him, and Loki follows, and they all just go on this journey right away. I didn't catch that Easter egg, so thank you for telling me as we're going to talk about it. But yeah, I was hyped right off the bat, and the production value is just like top notch.
Well said, Amanda. Chris, man, going into this conversation here, Renslayer. To me, this is so interesting with Renslayer. She's almost like a Loki in my eyes because she's saying everything to stall for time. As we know, Lokis are great at doing that. So she's learned a thing or two from a Loki. But Chris, man, your thought on Renslayer and her, where do you stand with this character, man? I know the show wants to, make us think she's a villain, but as we know with the show, no one's ever really good. No one's ever really bad. How are you feeling about this conversation of Renslayer and Sylvie?
Yeah, I always go back to like week 1 when we did the show, and I was like, there's no way she could be bad. I love her too much. But that was just nonsense. Yeah, this scene kind of confused me because I was like, God damn, like why would Sylvie even fall for this shit? Like there's no way like you would be this like confused or like willing to like trust her. But I was like, damn, like, am I just being fooled? You know, like I left so confused. Like she was like flip flopping so crazy, like a politician. So I was like, oh, I don't know, like what is gonna come from this. I hope that she's got some good. I just don't know like how much she really knows. But also going back to the other part of the when we first see Loki, I love the line when he said, like, I think we had talked about it last week, and he was like, I asked this question, I have a million other questions, and I was like, yeah, exactly, like we're not going anywhere until y'all start like answering me, and like so I really like how they started with that, and I like the hourglasses too, as far as like the cinematography on the wall and all that kind of stuff. So like you guys mentioned, like it's production wise, like top tier.
Couldn't agree with the production. This set design I mentioned on a week 1 review in regards to if you guys watch Legion on FX and Noah Hawley, and just kind of the shapes and the colors, and just kind of brings you into this weird world. I just love everything they have to offer with the production. But Griff, man, just going into this opening sequence here, Loki landing on the Void. We have him introducing himself to these 4 of the Lokis, but this conversation of seeing Renslayer, her back against the wall, but she still has those deceitful things in line and wasting time and obviously trying to wait for the Minutemen to get into the equation. But your thoughts on this opening sequence, man?
I really liked the pre-title stuff. So like the camera kind of like turning around, going through the doors, and then going into the whatever the hell that other realm was, and like seeing the other Lokis like come with us, and then you see like just basically the flyover view and the shot of everything. I thought that was such a really fluid introduction, and I don't know, it was just a cool way to open the episode. So I really dug that. And then the stuff with Renslayer I loved, because for a second there you're thinking like, oh, okay, so she's gonna be like Mobius, and she's gonna realize that like the ends don't justify the means and stuff like that, and realize that this thing that she has believed in and that she is following is not what it is, and so there is good in her. And then like sort of seeing how she's revealed to actually be like a fanatic, a zealot, just someone who like blindly follows this cause and like actually believes that the means justify the ends and stuff like that, I think is really interesting. And I thought that was some of the more fascinating material in the episode. I kind of like how they're sort of exploring just like the different levels of I guess it would be like belief or putting your faith in something, whether it be like a cause or whatever. Because you sort of see with Mobius, he's throughout this episode, he's definitely learned the error of what he is, and he's willing to redefine himself. Loki obviously is someone who is sort of challenging that idea, which I think is interesting, especially because it's ironic because he's a god. And then you have someone like Renslayer who is like sort of doubling down on it, and so it's. I don't know. That's been one of the things that I've really enjoyed about the entire season, is sort of this look at fanaticism and putting your faith behind something. And so, I mean, again, it was in terms of this sequence in general, I dug it. Yeah.
I totally agree with you, man. And Eman, when I toss it to you, man, this explanation of what the Void is, that was the big question last week. When you get pruned, where do you go? As we kind of get this exposition from Renslayer, when you get pruned, you go to your matter isn't completely destroyed. They move to a place in the timeline that you won't continue to grow, and the timeline is not reset, but it's transferred to a void. And we learned that the Void is created by the Timekeepers as a utopia. What's your thoughts on the Void, and should we get a show like a What If to see what other Easter eggs we can find within that Void?
So, I mean, if Marvel wanted to give us that show, obviously I'm compelled to watch. It's a little hard to, divest yourself from, MCU content at this point. But I would hope not, only because I want more stories rather than more tangent filler stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting to get a little bit of an explanation about the Void. However, the story kind of splits itself in two, right? Like what Renslayer knows is only what she, anyway, I don't even know if we can believe half of the stuff she tells us, but what we hear, at least from an audience perspective, is half of the story from one side. We only know that things go over there and they never come back. And then later in the next couple scenes, we learn the other side of the truth, which is, oh yeah, they do come over here, but they just so happen to get eaten up by this big old Alioth thing as well. But I mean, this whole opening scene just had me more conflicted, especially with Renslayer and Miss Minutes, because they both raggedy. And I don't like either one of them. And I don't know if I can come to a final judgment about them, because a lot of it is going to depend on what they actually know or don't. Because as the episode progresses, I don't know what Renslayer actually wants or not. Her actions are conflicting. Her thoughts are conflicting. 1 minute she's saying, oh yeah, I just want this. But, you know, it's kind of like, well, if you want to know the truth, then why don't you partner with them? But then you don't want to do that. So are you hiding something? So like right now, we don't have enough information and it's not making her character look good. And dare I say, if they don't fix that, if they don't give us more information about her, if they don't give us more insight into her thinking, her background, that could be a faux pas on the writing and directing. Because right now, I don't know what direction she's going in. Unlike, for example, what was that guy's name in WandaVision? The director.
Hayward.
Yeah. See, now with Hayward, he was interesting because even though he looked villainous, you understood what his motivations were. He was going about it in shady ways, but he did actually care about protecting people. He just did it in a shady way. I'm not getting that similar strength of writing and structure within Renslayer right now. I don't know if she's being shady just to be shady. I don't know if she's just confused. I don't know. So right now, it ain't a good look, but we'll have to wait and see.
It's a good point, man, and we'll get to it a little bit later when she has a conversation with B-15. But she has, as Griffin said, she's such a believer, and even Mobius, right? This show has a lot of kind of like, I don't want to say religious undertones, but there is this belief system.
You're 100% spot on. That was the original, like throughout the entirety of this episode, I'm like, oh, this is a really great allegory for like organized religion and like how there's a clear difference between religion and faith, which that's one of my favorite
They touch
things.
on that in that scene that we touched on a couple weeks ago, Mobius and Loki at like that brunch table or that lunch table. That was one of the best ones. And he's like, listen to yourself. That was one of the hardest scenes in the whole season.
Yeah, and she has that line too in this episode about stability. You know, forget the timekeepers and all that stuff. These people, these TVA need stability. So to Eman's point, it will be really interesting, and it's so because it's not, you know, Loki and Renslayer. So I really do hope that they give her the ends justify the means type of situation. I really hope it's not, because I will say, bringing up Hayward, and I'm totally right there with you, Eman, when we were talking about WandaVision, I was liking where the character was going, but then that finale, he's trying to kill the kids, and then he gets arrested, and then the same goes, I don't even want to talk about the damn Flag Smashers, which was just a terrible organization. But I'm hoping this villain, I don't think she's a villain again. I don't think there's truly a villain in any of these shows, because if we've seen any of these shows, you know, it's always like everyone thinks they're a hero of their own story. So but I'm hoping that Renslayer.
Wanda is a villain.
That is very true.
She's a villain.
Very true.
Ain't no real dispute on that. She a villain.
Taking over it, man. She's misunderstood. Yeah, she's having a
misunderstood in some sorcery jail. You need to get lock her up. Lock her up.
Hey. Holds an entire city hostage and faces no repercussions.
Hello?
And then it's like, they'll never know what you sacrificed. They just have their free will stripped from them.
Hey, maybe Doctor Strange might have a couple words to express to Wanda in that film. But this is
under arrest.
Yeah. Hey, we'll see. I can't wait for that. But great discussion so far. Again, guys, 55 people in the live chat. Make sure you guys are continuing this great. I'm trying to read your comments as I'm, listening to my panelists. You guys have some great comments there. So continue the conversation, like, share, and let's continue this. So we move on and get back to the Lokis, and we hear Loki. This is so funny to me about just survive. We just don't die. As Loki says, that's just a regular thing that you should be doing anyway. But it goes to show you again the thought process of a Loki, as we learned last week. Lokis are cockroaches. They just don't die. They survive. They're all about survival. But we kind of learn a little bit about this Alioth as one of our Lokis. Kind of describes as a living being that consumes matter and energy. And I'm not too familiar with the Alioth, but I know from just looking it up on the comics, it seems like a pretty serious deal. It seems like a particular entity that isn't something that can be defeated pretty easily. And from what I understand, that Kang is pretty afraid of this being, which kind of lies into, again, we'll talk about our Kang theories and all that stuff. But this is a creature that has some pretty strong abilities here. So Alioth, just starting with you, Amanda, did you like the design? Did you like the creature? Do you want to learn more about it?
I thought it looked cool. I mean, I wasn't it kind of reminded me, I don't know why it reminded me of Dormammu, like a gigantic blob type of thing, but this is done way better than Dormammu. So it kind of reminded me of that, but I thought it looked pretty sick. It looked cool, the whole concept of it. But yeah, I just love that all the Lokis are together, and they're also like learning from each other and talking to each other about their own their own lives and like what they've done. So they kind of get different perspectives on each other as their own person individually, if that makes sense. But yeah, it was really cool just to see them on this journey together, and they're friends. They need friends since they're like outcasts, as they say later on in the episode. So yeah, it was cool to learn about Alioth and the connections that he could possibly have. But yeah, I like the design for what it was.
Chris, your take on this Alioth creature, and then kind of transition into this scene that we're looking at now as Loki asks Kid Loki, what was your Nexus event? As he kind of drops the mic and say, hey, I did something you'll never be able to do or have been able to do, which is kill my brother Thor. So your thoughts on Alioth in this moment here of learning how badass Kid Loki is?
Yeah, I think the face of Alioth looks like the never-ending story of the flying dog. I don't know why. It's been years since I've seen that film, but it looked like that. And then I just thought, I was like, this thing looks unbeatable. Like, and this guy Loki's talking about, I'm gonna go in there and cut the fucking heart out or whatever. I'm like,
that idea, Loki.
Yeah, like good luck, bro. That's why I thought. The design is obviously good. It didn't look like cheap or anything like that. I thought it was fine. And then the reveal is I love Kid Loki, man. It's got a lot of heart, man. The whole episode, I was he's my favorite of all the, well, not out of regular Loki, but yeah, Kid Loki just brought a lot of just good energy. And then he's like, I killed Thor, and then you see like the look on our Loki's face, and he's like, God damn, like that was like a good moment, like like a real moment, like wait, what the hell? So I thought that was a good little scene.
Griff, man, same question for you in regards to this Alioth character and Kid Loki. Can we expect to see more from this character as we've seen with all these shows? The twins from WandaVision. We might have a new Falcon coming into the mix. We have, a John Walker character, but in particularly with the Young Avengers, we have a Young Avenger, an important Young Avenger in Kid Loki. What'd you think about him?
I thought it was cool. I mean, I liked all the Lokis about equally. I mean, other than Richard E. Grant, who I think we'll get to, but he definitely like sort of stole the show in regards to like the Elseworld Lokis. Kid Loki was kind of cool. I liked that line, I killed Thor. I thought that was really funny. But it was just sort of like a Loki sort of reflecting on the fact it's like, oh, well, I've never done that. Okay, so there's something weird going on with this guy. But in terms of, I'm sorry, what's the name of the monster thing?
Alioth.
Yeah. It gave me flashbacks to Galactus from Rise of the Silver Surfer, which wasn't a great thing, but I think for just like the, how it was implemented in the show, it worked. I mean, it was an imposing presence, so there's that. But in regards to like Kid Loki and if we're gonna see him again and stuff like that, I don't know. I don't think we'll see him again in this particular show, but I mean the door is open if they wanted to sort of like weave him into the Young Avengers or something like that. I don't know if that'll realistically happen. I feel like it was just more so serve the purpose of this episode in this show. But I mean, who knows? They've already established something, and Marvel likes to pluck stuff from other stuff and put them in new things. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's sooner rather than later, because I think there was a comment by Kevin Feige earlier this week that they are planning a big event Disney Plus type of situation, which I think points towards a Netflix Defenders type of situation. You get a Cassie Lang from Ant-Man, you get a Hawkeye, and we have already 3 characters from the Young Avengers, so I would hope Loki makes an appearance there. But kicking to you, man, your thoughts on the Alioth character. Again, it is seen, because again, I'm not too familiar with the character, but reading that stuff up, it seems like a pretty formidable villain, and we'll talk about what happens at the end, but your thoughts on that character and then our Kid Loki being able to do something that our Loki wasn't able to do, which is kill his brother.
Yeah, I mean, the Alioth character, if you've read the old school comics where he came from, I wouldn't recommend it. It's just mind-boggling. He's a being that lives in like outside of time, and he's like a temporal dimensional being that eats up time and space and matter, and it's like, look, he's a walking trash compactor, just eats stuff and farts out dust. That's all you need to know, because your brain is just gonna melt trying to think of all the weird stuff of how he exists. So I'm glad that they didn't go too deep into him and just say
yeah.
like, yo, he just eats stuff and you die. You done.
Yep.
That's it.
Simple
You know,
play,
but it's funny because the way they depicted him is straight out the comics. Like I was thinking like, oh, they did some artistic liberties or something. No, he's a cloud monster thing too, like in the comics. So they did a really good job at preserving that, you know, especially for the what was it, the golden silver age of comics. As for Kid Loki, I mean, I think given what we've learned about him later in the show, I don't think he's as devious as he might be or he might sound like right now. Because right now it's like, hey, I killed Thor. It didn't sound like something he was proud of. You know, it sounded like something that happened, and it was kind of like, whoa, you were capable of that? That's crazy. So now I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, this could be something that he's regretted. This could be because later on he talks about how like every time we try to change, that's when the TVA comes in. So maybe this was like a prank gone wrong because, you know, turning into a snake and stabbing Thor, maybe he hits him in the heart and he kills him, you know. So either way, I'm certainly intrigued about Kid Loki. And I think like everybody assumes he's going to come back in the Young Avengers. He was in the Young Avengers in the comics and everything on like this whole redemption arc and everything. So I think they planted enough seeds for us to see that happen in the MCU. And I'm pretty sure that's where they're going to go with them.
Yeah, and Michael brought it up earlier too. He felt the same way as far as the deceit of Kid Loki. Didn't really feel like it was portrayed in this particular interpretation. Which again, we know Marvel. If you know Ant-Man and the Wasp, you know Quantumanium shows us something with you know Catherine Newton as recasted as Casey Lang. We might see a Kid Loki in the films recasted, and it might be because this is another version of Loki. So there's another Kid Loki out there. So they might just be introducing the idea of Kid Loki, and come you know Avengers, Young Avengers movie or show, whatever they ultimately do, it's more of that deceitful, lying, conniving type of character. But it was just cool to kind of see that character be introduced to the MCU, which just brings up the question: what other versions of some of these Avengers and characters we know out there that we might see in the you know later down the road? So here's one of a million Easter egg, ladies and gentlemen, as they're gearing up to go to their little bunker. They're coming across this field, and we come across the a little cool Easter egg with the Thanos helicopter getting the chopper, which is just very funny to kind of see. Again, this episode was just full of obscure things that are just so kind of deep cuts that was just so funny to see, as we also see the Thor version, a frog version of Thor with his hammer outside of the container. Again, just those little funny moments was just put a smile on my face, no doubt. But as we kind of move forward, you know, Eman talked about Miss Minutes and kind of going with this lie with Renslayer, as Sylvie is realizing that she is lying and she's not telling the truth, and she doesn't want to team up with her to help her find Loki, to also find out who's behind the curtain. But Amanda, Renslayer, we have Sylvie. Miss Minutes is back. It's been a minute since we've seen her, but she's back in the mix, and we ultimately see Sophie prunes herself to go find Loki and find the answers. Your thoughts on this whole sequence, and any thoughts on these cool Easter eggs here?
I loved Frog Thor. I thought it was, I literally looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, like that's pretty cool that they incorporated that. But yeah, all the Easter eggs, there's too many to count. And then going into Miss Minutes, I trusted her early on in this season. And now just in these little scenes with like Renslayer and Sylvie, I'm like, can we trust Miss Minutes? Because she didn't really want to dive into the files. So I don't know if it's like Renslayer and her together, because she was also iffy later on in the episode with Renslayer and going into the files. So I don't know if like she is just playing along and like stalling in that particular case. But yeah, I don't trust her or Renslayer, and I'm pretty sure they don't trust each other fully. But I love the fact that Sylvie just took matters into her own hands, and she did what she had to do. If Renslayer didn't say that Loki was still alive, like would she have done what she did?
It's a ballsy move. Yeah, that's she put a little faith in Renslayer in regards to where she could potentially go with going to The Voice. So that just shows you, you know, she's willing to do what it takes to get these answers. As we know, she's just been this renegade her whole life, so she doesn't waste any time.
Exactly.
Chris, man, your take on some of those cool little Easter eggs, the helicopter that we got from Thanos, the frog Loki, to this scene here. As you know, as Amanda just brought up, Miss Minutes was peeping games. She was knowing that Renslayer was stalling and kind of, so it makes you think, who created Miss Minutes? Is what's going on with Miss Minutes? I said it to episode 1. This is my favorite character, man. It's going to be selling out all the Funko Pop toys, but seems like we can't trust her, man. What's going on with Miss Minutes?
Yeah, I said in the chat, but Miss Minutes, her swag is too clean. I don't want her to let me down like this. The drip is too elite. But she's obviously got some nefarious. So now I don't even know if I should trust her less than Renslayer. But it seems if I'm to believe anything, is that Renslayer may not know everything that's really going on, and Miss Minutes does, because she was stalling, and she. She's the being that we don't even know what she is. Like, we understand like what Renslayer is, like, most likely. Like, you're just another being, like Mobius. You're probably taken out of your regular timeline to be here. Miss Minutes, we have no idea like where that came from, what it is, AI, whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought it let me down. Like you said, like, I was kind of disappointed in Miss Minutes. I have to have a conversation with her. The Easter eggs just made me put my WandaVision hat on, because like it trains you for that. WandaVision making you look at every freeze frame. Yeah. So I was trying to see everything. I didn't know that the Thanos copter was in the comics. I saw it online after, but I love that Marvel has that attention to detail, whether it be like putting these numbers on the screen and it's like, oh, that's an episode of this issue here, like that's the first time you saw this. Love the attention to detail on that. So big fan of all the eggs we saw in this episode.
And we've come a long way, man. The big thing in Hollywood was people won't understand this. We have actors saying that these things are silly and stupid, but it just shows you, man, we're at the point now where we have Purple Man fighting the Avengers. We have a frog, Thor, and we have the Void. So we've come a long way in the comic book world.
Because someone's going to appreciate it. It doesn't matter if the audience, the general, they doesn't get it. Like, people like us are going to be like, oh my God, like, the comic book fans, like the real like OG heads, like they're always going to be battling like, this is not exactly how it was. But then you get these little Easter eggs that kind of like say like, hey, we got y'all, like I'm trying to please everybody. So it's like, which you never can, but it's like, I respect the effort.
Definitely. I totally agree with you, man. And Griff, your thoughts on, again, the little Easter egg, the funny Easter eggs that we got within the episode, but then this pivotal moment with Sylvie and Renslayer and Miss Minutes working together, line coming, oh, yeah, let me find this file. Just give me a second, hun, and playing all to that. But your thoughts on Miss Minutes, Sylvie proving herself and all that good stuff.
Miss Minutes, that bitch.
Miss Minutes.
No, part of me thinks that Miss Minutes is just like a program, and like Renslayer is just able to basically just manipulate her however she sees fit. So I don't know. I mean, like it'd be hilarious if like she was like integral to everything that's going on. But I mean, that seems a little ridiculous to kind of go with. But in terms of Sylvie and everything with her, I don't know. I like that sequence was interesting because it showed like how cunning she was. Like, she didn't really buy into Renslayer's bullshit for 1 minute, and then she knew that, like, okay, if she's gonna like melt herself or whatever, prune herself, then she'll be with Loki, and then from there they can go and get to the bottom of things. So like, she's smart, and like the show has been pretty good about showing her intellect and her resourcefulness and stuff like that. So that was good there. What was the other thing that you mentioned? The Loki stuff, or?
Yeah, no, as far as, and you touched on the Easter eggs and
yeah, the Thor frog was hilarious. That was great. Just to sort of like see that incorporated in there, and it gave them an in because they had like the alligator Loki, so it's like, well, why not? We'll throw a Thor frog as we're like going down. So I want to see more of him. I want to see a show that is just alligator Loki and Thor frog.
Yep.
That would be incredible.
100%.
Just throw Groot in it. Just
throw this to make it just for the hell of it. That would be amazing.
Yeah, it's like basically WALL-E, where like no one talks, but it's just like So I don't know.
Hey man, Disney is Disney Plus. They got their kids shows. That might be something to look forward to, because I don't think from mistaken, the MCU alligator. So this is like no comic book lore, so they can kind of do whatever they want with this character, which makes you wonder where that alligator came from. Because we'll talk about Mobius not knowing where it came from. So I don't know. Well, maybe it's a spy. But Eman, your thoughts. I really want to know what you're thinking about Miss Minutes, man. Like what's going on with Miss Minutes, man? Is she AI Siri gone rogue?
I mean, she's clearly a more advanced AI. I mean, what did Loki ask her? Like, are you alive or pre-recording? And she was like, a little bit of both. You know, so it's one of those things like, okay, were you pre-programmed at the end of time? So you kind of sort of know what's going to happen, but you're still an AI, so you can kind of adapt when needed. I don't know. I don't have the answers for that. But I do know that she was the one that was prompting the lie in the first place. She didn't take cues from Renslayer. She brought, the Void spacecraft. Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. How does Android, how does she come up with that? Who programmed the lie factor into the AI? So that's a problem for me, you know, so I can't trust her. You know, I don't understand where her checks and balances are. You know, Miss Minutes to me feels like HR, right? Like if you had a company, you know, it's like you think they on your side, but HR is not on your side. They on the side of the company. That's how Miss Minutes is. She's there for the TVA because they the ones that created her. She ain't there for Renslayer. She don't care about Loki's. She's there to protect the TVA. So that's the approach I'm taking with her right now.
Like we just want to have a conversation.
Yeah. You know, don't ever go to her office when she wants to ask you something. But no, as for the Easter eggs, I enjoyed the Frog Thor. I thought that they were going to do that long ago. I was glad that they had fun with it. I was interested in the Yellow Jacket, you know, quick Easter egg that they showed as well. Only because that does lead to more questions. Why was Yellow Jacket even targeted by the TVA? We know the last time we saw him in Ant-Man, the first one, he was going through the microverse, and you know he probably got dumped in the quantum realm, and we know the quantum realm has implications with time travel, and then again, there's also the theory that the TVA is in the quantum realm. So I like the potential connections that could have, because also it's not like his helmet was regular size; it was huge. So, like, was he growing, or is Loki and everybody else really small? Like, I don't know. It just prompted more questions. So we just have to wait and see.
And to even throw more fuel on that fire, I don't know if you guys saw, this is before we went live, Evangeline Lilly on her Instagram. I don't know if she let the cat out of the bag, but she put she retweeted not retweeted, but Instagram, all the cast members, the major cast members, and Corey Stoll was in there. So, and I don't know if this is a fully confirmation that Corey Stoll will be making a return to Ant-Man Quantumanium and maybe teaming up with Kane the Conqueror. And like Eman just said, what happened to Yellow Jacket in between Ant-Man 1 and fast forward to Quantumanium? Some stuff to look forward to later.
Yeah, going off of that point, I mean, here's the thing. When Yellow Jacket was killed in Ant-Man, I mean, they basically just like super shrunk him. So he's just, off somewhere in the void or in the quantum realm or stuff like that. So I think that actually does make sense why he would be there if they're going to go explore the confines of the quantum realm and whatever. I don't know if he's necessarily working. I don't think it's going to be a case where it's like he's working with Kang the Conqueror or whatever. I think it's probably going to be a case where they just sort of like run into him during their adventure, and I don't know, something will happen there. But that's sort of where I'm at with that. I don't know about you guys.
I'm telling you, man, Quantumanium is shaping up to be something pretty awesome. I'm really excited to see what they do with that. More Ant-Man.
Give me more Ant-Man.
Yes.
Casey Lang coming back, and the whole damn crew, and Janet and Hank and the whole family. So we'll see what's, and of course Kang has already been announced. And we'll get, again, there's a lot of Kang-isms in this episode. But speaking of kind of our Lokis here, we have one of our Lokis just doing what a Loki likes to do, which is lie. That is so funny. He conquered Iron Man. He conquered Captain America, and he got his claim was the 6 Infinity Stones, which is just hilarious. As Alligator Loki, growls at him, but just saying, you're lying.
You're lying.
You're lying, man. You're telling a lie right now. But that was kind of funny. But the big moment for me in this moment, in this scene, was classic Loki telling his story. As he tells our Loki that his story, his timeline played out exactly as it was supposed to be, except for he faked his death, which I don't know is a foreshadowing for our Loki doing that, or if he has done that in Endgame, or I should say Infinity War. But we hear this story. He pretty much Luke Skywalker himself. He put himself in self isolation, but he got lonely. He wanted to come back and check on his brother and his dad, and unfortunately that got him caught and got him captured by the TVA. But Amanda, hearing Richard E. Grant tell this story again, I can't get over this ridiculous costume. I love it. But him telling that story, is there a little bit of foreshadowing going on with him talking about him being able to fake his death in front of Thanos and going on this trip of self-discovery?
First of all, Richard E. Grant is the only one that could pull off this costume.
That's true. Yeah,
literally, because he's just so happy being in a Marvel property that I'm pretty sure he just like fills it out in a different way. The story, it's the best moment out of like all the Lokis when they're speaking. Like he really stole the show, like we said before. But I think that it hits like our Loki a bit harder to hear that, because he does sometimes feel like an outcast, but he also didn't completely fulfill what he wanted to do in his own life either. So I guess listening to an older Loki, classic Loki, do what he intended to do and kind of remove himself is something that maybe, like you said, foreshadows that Loki could in the future do the same. So I don't know, it's a possibility, but I do think that Loki, listening to everyone's stories, again, he's learning about himself and what he would do, and learning about what everyone else would do in that situation, even though they are the same character in alternate realities. So it's really interesting to see that and how Loki responds to all of it at the same time.
No, that's perfectly said. And just seeing an older version of yourself tell, their version of the story is really interesting. And again, Richard E. Grant, the costume is everything. Mm-hmm. Chris, man, your thoughts on this story, and is this something that Loki can learn to use in the future? Or maybe he has already used this before. We know he fakes his death a lot, but your thoughts on this story here, man, and Richard E. Grant's dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this scene was one of the best ones of the episode. I didn't like what happened, like the scene after, but I thought that I was foreshadowing for the end of this episode with him building Asgard, and like maybe he faked it again, but then I don't know if it was like it's like one of those things that me and E, we always talk about it, like how many deaths can we fake? How many are there any real ones? Is it only Natasha? So I didn't know. I liked Loki. Like it's like how many times would you have the chance to talk to yourself? So it's like, this is like classic dialogue, and it's like he's getting to hear like, the wisdom of old Loki, the nonsense of boastful Loki, and like kid Loki's the king. It's like this is like a crazy moment. It must be crazy for Loki, our Loki, to be like in this moment. So I thought it was cool to see.
Can't forget that gator just chilling in his little pool.
That fucking gator. Get that gator out of here. Jesus Christ.
Same question to you, Griff. Your thoughts on this Loki story. And again, as Chris has alluded to, hearing all these different versions of Loki and our Loki just observing all this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you guys. I think this is one of the best parts of the entire episode. I mean, this episode definitely was great for like Tom Hiddleston and Sylvie and everything, but like it sort of belonged to Richard E. Grant. I think it was just really interesting to see our Loki see what would happen if everything that he ever sought out to do was accomplished, and how at the end of it all, he's really just left alone with his thoughts, and that loneliness and that isolation is just as bad, and if not worse, than failing to accomplish whatever it is he was setting out to do. Because I think the interesting thing about Loki is that he wants to like take over the world or whatever, he wants to rule, but he has no real reason why he wants to do this. It's just sort of like, oh, I'm Loki, I'm the god of mischief, here's this entire like back history of just like what I'm supposed to be mythologically, and so it's like, oh well, I just have to do that because that's just the Loki thing. Where I think in actuality,
they tap into that too later in the episode when he says, "And then I'll be happy. Then I'll finally be happy." So sorry to cut you off.
No. You're 100% spot on. And so I think just like seeing our Loki see like a potentially like future version of himself say like, yeah, I did all these things and I sat on a planet by myself and I thought, oh wow, I really miss my brother Thor. And then when he actually wanted to leave that, the TVA wouldn't let him do that. So that's like it was actually really tragic to sort of like see that happen. And so when you see him make the sacrifices he does at the end of the episode, and I think it was really cool to sort of see how he also recreated like his brother Thor's like lightning kind of coming down in Asgard. That was really telling, showed that he actually loved and missed his brother and stuff like that. Seeing him find an actual purpose and like lay down his life so that our Loki and everyone else can discover their perfect purpose, I thought was just really beautiful.
Well said, man. And before I get your thoughts on this story, I need to get this debate on the table. We've had it before, and Amanda brought it up in the chat, and I want to know. I kind of know where Griffin stands, but I want to know where Eman stands on this. Just quickly, Griff or Eman, Iron Man, Captain America, and we got Thor and Ant-Man. Trilogy-wise, my friend, where do you sit with these trilogies, and does Ant-Man have the possibility of being the best trilogy in the MCU?
What?
Yeah, that part.
This was like a legit debate.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a real.
Oh, Griff, I know how you feels about Ant-Man.
How is it not Captain America?
That part.
Like this isn't even debatable. This isn't debatable. It's not
what she wants to do is take out Civil War because it's so epic.
No. Forget about Civil War.
Can't even handle it.
No. Forget about Civil War. Generally, people do not like the first Avenger, and they rate it lower than the other two.
That's fine.
So as a whole trilogy, everyone puts the first Avenger down low. And it's like for me personally, it kind of feels inconsistent, like with Civil War. That's just a personal gripe of mine. But I do think that because Peyton Reed is going to direct all three, and like Scott Lang has that consistency, and there's like the value of family within, obviously we'll see what happens in Quantumania. Right. But I do think that there's a consistency where it's going to be like a whole trilogy. It's going to feel like it is like the best one, in my opinion, just because of the consistency out of the three, writing wise, like character wise, and then whatever happens with the third one that will blow our minds. So
I totally feel you, but I'm gonna just tell you respectfully, I don't care about none of that. And that's only because I mean, I'm just saying you can have a totally consistent story and it's just not as entertaining. So I'm here for it. Don't get me wrong. I love consistent through stories, characters. I'm there for it. And I'm also with you on the fact that the first Captain America was lackluster. I forgot about it, to be straight up honest with you. But the mere fact,
I thought I was the only one that didn't.
I'm a fan, man.
But the mere fact that Winter Soldier is arguably in almost everybody's top three, that by itself carries the burden of First Avenger, and then you have Civil War, which
Black Panther.
It cheats with Black Panther and Spider-Man. Broke the internet with just the trailer at the time, and the implications of Civil War were still rippling. I don't think people realize what happened in Civil War is why Endgame even happened in the first place. It's too much.
I'm about to say it right now.
I don't know why we're having this conversation.
I get it. It's just a personal. It's a personal.
I don't want to argue with personal favorites. That is totally cool. I'm with you on that. But I'm just gonna say, ain't no conversation on that.
I'm right there with you. Griff, do you have any insight on this, man? I know you're an Ant-Man fan.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Amanda and I are very much on the same page when it comes to this. Ant-Man will have the best trilogy out of the entire thing. The thing, see, I love the first Avenger. I think that movie's fucking really incredible and like really slept on. It's Civil War that kind of like tanks the whole thing for me, because it's like you really feel the divide of two movies. It's like a Cap 3 for half of the film, and then it switches to like Avengers 2.5, and the ideologies are really. I don't want to get into it, but like they're really weird. Anyways, but I guess we're very weird in the fact that we just don't get it. But you know,
I don't want to like make people think that. You know, just because you like those things, it doesn't make the movies bad. Like, movies are good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I have my personal favorites that I know are not going to be favorites for others, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But for me, I'm also thinking of it as if I take a step outside of my personal preference, I have to recognize that like money talks, ratings talk, and I'm talking about ratings from critics and fans. And you know, here's the thing: sometimes we're going to be outside of those factors. You know, Ant-Man did not bring people back to the theaters for 1 and 2 that much. That's kind of telling, you know. Captain America Civil War, Captain America Winter Soldier, people are still talking about it. The fact that we're still bringing up Winter Soldier to this day, I think matters. You know, that replayability is a factor. So there are all these different things that, you know, that contribute, that can go into the conversation. I know that's probably a whole nother video.
Do we have before, like, without going into it, just quick, no reasoning? Could we just go the 5 of us, our least favorite of the MCU movies, films? One film, no reasoning.
Oh God,
I can do that right now.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thor 1. Thor 1 trash.
That's a hot take. That's a hot take.
Kenneth Branagh heart. Okay.
No explanations. Another straight.
I know. I'm just joking.
Thor 1.
Okay. Griff. What you got, Griff?
Take.
Hold on. I need to actually look at it. It might be Thor 2, but I have to double check. I know that's
Thor 2 was very close.
Yeah.
Hold
on. That's my least favorite Marvel film. Thor 2.
Yes.
Okay, so we got two for Thor 2.
Yeah, Thor 2. Yeah. It is Thor 2.
Amanda.
It's actually Captain Marvel.
That's my second least favorite.
And as a woman, I'm sorry, but it's Captain Marvel. Like I couldn't. It was so bad. And then if I have to say like second last, it would be The Dark World.
Yeah.
And then like Doctor Strange is also down there. But
yes.
Oh my God!
Hey, get rid of my hot take. That's a hot take right there.
It's not.
Get rid of my hot take. That's a
that's a hotter. That's a hotter take.
With the hot
sorry,
take.
I almost fell asleep during Doctor Strange. But anyways, it's
y'all lucky we're not doing reasons because I about Thor 1. I'll let y'all know about Thor 1. Thor 2 is a problem, but I'll let y'all know about Thor 1. Whatever. We ain't got time for that.
Well, Chris, I mean, you brought the question to the table, man. What is it for you, man?
My answer is usually Ant-Man and the Wasp. However, I only watched it once, and I need to rewatch it because my list it's Thor 2. But after I started rewatching Thor 2, it came back up. So I got to give Ant-Man another chance, but it's my lowest right now.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
And these are relative to Marvel movies, so let's not act like these are trash, garbage.
You
compare them to other Marvel, you know.
Go call out.
Exactly.
I just want to. All right, so
whenever Ant-Man 3 comes out next year, I want to have this discussion again with you all and see where we're at with the trilogy. But I'll say this about Winter Soldier. Black Widow just came out. It looked a lot like Winter Soldier to me. I'll just kind of leave it at that, but not a better version of Winter Soldier.
No.
Taskmaster. Anyway, listen, guys, we all have our reviews. I know Chris has a review coming up soon and we're going to hear your thoughts at the end of this, Chris, on Black Widow. But let's get back to Loki. A great discussion. Loki, right? And then all the other Lokis out there. But no, this is such a great discussion. Again, if you guys watch this replay, let us know what your favorite trilogy is, where you stand with Ant-Man, and let's have a discussion about it. But Loki is having some conversations. He's trying to motivate the team to take on this Alioth, but doesn't do good at doing so. But he runs into himself. Tom Hiddleston, shout out to him, pulling double duty in this episode as he is playing President Loki, which is a cool character in the comics. But let's catch up with Sylvie as she is now in the void. She's in a car. She's getting chased by the Alioth, and she comes across this little vision. She kind of links to it, has an enchantment moment, which we'll talk about. But someone order some pizza because we got some pizza delivery coming up. We got our man Mobius saving the day, which I just thought about it. He does play, what does he voice in Cars? He's the main character in Cars, right? So yeah, Lightning McQueen comes perfect time in there, Mobius. I don't know how he found her, but he found her, and that was great for him to come in, kind of come with me if you want to live moment. But listen, we got to talk about these crazy Loki. I think this is I think Chris talked about this might be his least favorite moment, but I actually kind of like this moment because it speaks to the chaos of Lokis, that you can't trust each other. As we see them betraying one another, he's gonna, he wants to be the king. President Loki wants to be the king of everything. It just really speaks to the path that Lokis are set on. But we know in this episode that you could change, with this. But this is just a really cool moment to me, seeing all this betrayal as our Loki's like, let me just get out of here. I don't need time for all this. But Amanda, tossing it to you on all this stuff that we got here from our Mobius saving saving the day are Sylvie attaching herself briefly to seeing this enchantment, and then we get our Lokis versus all the other Lokis.
Yeah, I thought it was like really just funny seeing the car like on this like vast piece of land, and like Alioth is in the background. It's like, we're gonna go save whoever. It was just really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great seeing Mobius again. Again, like Owen Wilson, my goodness, like amazing in this show.
Mm-hmm.
I love that we see the extent of Sylvie's power as well. Like we just keep seeing more and more of what she's capable of, and that she could link like that and see those little snippets. I thought it was really great. The Lokis, hilarious.
President Loki.
It was. I love President Loki. I'd vote for him. Like, why not? I think it'd be awesome to actually get like a little spin-off of just President Loki. But it was just madness. It was chaotic. It was so fun. But I think the reason why I love that scene so much is that Tom Hiddleston is just in the corner watching everyone
just like sneaking around.
What in God's name is wrong with you people? And it's like, that's you, dude. Like that's you in multiple. You know what I mean? So it was so funny, and his reactions like made it perfect. It was just great. I enjoyed it.
Now, Chris, I think you alluded to it. That this was a scene that you might have not been a fan of, seeing these Lokis being chaotic. But, you know, even prior to that Sylvie moment with the Alioth and then coming across Mobius. But President Loki, betrayal. Your thoughts on the sequences here, man?
Yeah, every time I can see Mobius, I'm a fan. He's never let me down the whole season. So he's still doing his thing. This is what we talked about last week when he's supposed to be dead, but then in the trailer we know that he's driving around. So it's another debate about trailers and how they built them. Story for another day. But
too much.
The Loki fight, I was just like, this is a lot of like stuff, and like it doesn't mean anything. Like I thought it was just like thrown in, and it threw me off, and I was like, I wonder what people think about this, because like, am I alone thinking that? I'm like just very confused and overwhelmed. So I'm happy to see that some of you guys liked it, whatever. I see some people in the chat were like kind of confused too, but it was a lot, and I didn't know what to take of it.
Hey, that's true, man. And again, I do love the chaos of that, but it is a lot to take in, especially seeing, you know, classic Loki, you know, doing the whole projection and all that stuff. And I love that he comes out of that and it's like animals, which is another moment of him just trying to make that change. But tossing it to you, Eman, your thoughts on this whole kind of sequence, Mobius kind of coming in, saving the day. But again, Richard E. Grant, classic Loki, our Loki, Kid Loki, just seeing what these Lokis are meant to be, but you can make a change. You can be different.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's okay. So first of all, I knew that Marvel was gonna have some fun. The moment you sit here talking about their variant Lokis and when they teased them early on, I'm like, man, they about to have a ball with theirs, because in the comics, that's what they did. They had a whole bunch of different Lokis doing random things, Kid Loki, Alligator, you know, all these things. So at first, honestly, I thought this was gonna be Tom Hiddleston going at it. I thought he was going to play like straight up 9 different Lokis, and we would get that much, but apparently they didn't want to push it that much. But the reason why I appreciated this scene, even though I know it was all just straight entertainment, right? But the deeper meaning of it is every time, I mean, this entire show, the mere fact that Sylvie exists, classic Loki, Kid Loki, boastful Loki, who I call Bro Loki because he a brother and a Loki, and all these other variants, the whole point of them is for Loki's reflection. That's it. Every time you see a different Loki, it's how does this affect the main Loki? So, you know, I'm not looking at them for anything else except for what does this do for Loki? And what this moment did for Loki was kind of tell him like, wow, no matter what I do, I always have this betrayal, you know, character trait within me. And it's so bad, I would betray myself. And that is something for him to reflect on and to look at. And the one thing that was really interesting is that when you look at Kid Loki and classic Loki, unlike the other Lokis, they actually had an opportunity to do something different when new information was presented to them, when a different experience changed them. So that's why I like the idea that like all these other Lokis were just doing what 2012 Loki would have kept on doing or earlier. But once you get a little bit past that, or once you hit a significant event or information, now it's something different, because the main Loki we have right now, and he never looked at the tape from the TVA? Had he never seen his counterpart in Sylvie? Because remember, another change for him was like, wait a minute, you knew you were adopted? That in itself blew his mind. You know, because that's something that really defined him.
It drove him,
early on.
Yeah.
So the mere fact that we're seeing what Loki could have been with all these variants, that's the purpose of this. So outside of the entertainment, this is really an educational thing for Loki to be like, wow, I'm so messed up in all these iterations of myself. I'd even backstab myself. Like, who wants to be around that? So that's that. I didn't really have too much else with the Mobius thing. I thought it was cool that he was just back. I'm just happy that he's back and all that. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
No, well said, Griff, man. Tossing it to you with these variant Lokis. Again, like, you know, Eman just points to, it was very, I mean, can you just imagine us seeing our lives and the different points in our lives and how crazy we are? And we, you know, you would hope we would change. But your thoughts on this whole sequence, man?
I mean, honestly, I think Eman hit the nail on the head right there. I don't know how much more there's to add to that because he's 100% right. That it was basically, someone in the chat even said it was basically like exposure therapy for him, just to like sort of see all these different versions of himself, to see how, you know, he can't even trust himself. It's just like the mind of Loki is such a warped, twisted thing, and like seeing him, I guess, sort of get to work all this stuff out throughout the course of the series has been very you know, enriching, I guess, for us just to sort of explore one of these characters more. And this might be a little bit off track, but one of the things that I really like about this show, and Marvel has only ever done this 3 times, this being one of the 3 times, is that basically when the main or the central timeline, not you know, referring to the TVA, the legitimate like cinematic timeline is kind of done with the character, then we're able to actually go back and explore who they are as people and deconstruct them. Because I mean, Iron Man 3 is one that comes to mind because basically at the end of Avengers, you know, Tony Stark has that near-death experience, and it's like Iron Man as we know it is sort of dead at that point. And so that entire film is sort of about exploring the you know, the psyche and whatnot of Tony Stark and his legacy and a whole bunch of other stuff. Black Widow is also very similar in how it takes a more character-driven approach to telling the story about Natasha, because it's like, we already know her fate, so how can we improve this character? How can we get our you know, when we're going through and we're watching all 20 whatever films in the order in which they're supposed to take place, when we watch Black Widow, Infinity War and Endgame is going to hit even harder, and it's because of that really intimate approach that they took to telling that story. With Loki, they're doing the exact same thing. I think it's like, because he's basically dead in the main timeline, they're able to go back and like explore, you know, what is arguably the franchise's greatest villain, or at least the most, you know, multi-dimensional villain. And it's kind of annoying that's what it takes in order
to come back and refix.
You know, the main timeline has to be done with a character before we can actually get to explore who they are as a person. But and I think this scene where all the Lokis are sort of like fighting and whatnot is a great example of what they've been able to do with this. As for the Mobius stuff, I mean, you know, last episode before, you know, Hiddleston got pruned or whatnot, I was like, oh shit, they really killed him. I was like, wow, that is I was kind of bummed. And then obviously we know what happens. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I honestly think that this is probably the best acting Owen Wilson has ever done. So that's just kind of cool to see.
Well said, man. Yeah, and really good stuff there, guys, and a really good discussion there. And before we move on to wrapping up and to this back half of the episode, quick shout out to Ashley with the $5 super chat that I missed a little bit early. Ashley, big supporter of the channel and always loves to bring in her takes on things. So I appreciate you, Ashley, as well as a friend of ours who's been on the channel before, Brandon from Just My Opinion, showing some love. Appreciate you, Brandon. Hope you're doing well, man. They say saying what's up to everyone. Great panel. Hit the thumbs up. Classic Loki's an OG of all OGs. That is right, my friend. Appreciate you, Brandon. So as we kind of move forward, guys, and kind of wrap it up the episode, we get another little nice Easter egg with the 173 USS ship, which was a very cool moment, very similar to the DB Cooper situation with Loki and explaining that and that whole conspiracy with the ship and where it went. Well, we learned where it went to the void, which was pretty funny within itself. But also the funniest moment to me is when Loki realizes, this whole plan of me going behind the Alioth and stabbing it, it doesn't look too good, Loki, because this Alioth can take you out pretty easily. So I kind of like that moment there. But really the big moment that I want to kind of touch on before we kind of wrap up the episode, a couple big moments I want to touch on. This one coming up here soon, starting with you, Eman. We get this conversation between B-15, Hunter B-15 and Renslayer. And the conversation goes about, I betrayed. What did I betray? There's no TVA. There's no one to this whole thing has been a lie. And I love this mic drop moment as she tells her that Sylvie, she needs it. You just want it. Your thoughts on this conversation? And again, B-15 and Renslayer just having a really good conversation.
Yeah, I mean, this is the conversation that made me more conflicted with Renslayer, because I'm like, if you really don't know who's behind everything, and you just saw the timekeepers get their head chopped off and it was all fake, what are you still doing here? What more do you need at this point? Why is B-15 even locked up? Why are you not sitting here like, hey, y'all, we need to get to the bottom of this? Like, this is the part that doesn't make sense. And it's one of those things where I'm starting to disconnect with the character of Renslayer, because I don't understand why she's still holding on to this. You can't really give me the whole religion is just that steep, type of story, because there's usually needs to still be something to hold on to within your faith. But when everything literally shatters in front of you, just like that, it's hard to sit here and be like, oh, well, she's still holding on because of this. No, I need something more. And right now it doesn't make sense, because, maybe if she had never seen the timekeepers, maybe if she hadn't seen them, the truth revealed, maybe then that would make more sense. But right now, this doesn't add up as to why her character is still holding on. Maybe, maybe she does remember, and I'm trying to give them a bone here, right?
Yeah, no,
maybe she does remember her past. Maybe her past was so jacked up that she doesn't want to go back to whatever she came from. That's what I'm saying. I'm holding out hope that the writing comes in a little stronger in the next episode to fill that in, because right now it does not make sense. If she truly wants to know what's really going on behind the scenes, why she's not letting go of this. I mean, I guess we could throw the Stockholm Syndrome thing in there, maybe, but right now it feels sloppy.
Tossing it to you, Amanda, kind of going off of that point of Eman and Renslayer and the Stockholm Syndrome, we can say, because we don't know, again, we know that these are variants, but they don't remember their past. What was this that can't help them remember their past? Is there some enchantment? Is there some mind memory wipe? Is there someone, controlling them behind the scenes? But she does say in this moment, as we talked about earlier, stability. And this goes to Eman's point. Maybe her life was just so terrible. This is the best life for her. She thinks that this is the best life for everyone because they have a purpose, a glorious purpose, if you want to say that. Yeah. But your thoughts on Renslayer and B-15? Tell her how it is.
I mean, I kind of agree that Renslayer's writing isn't as strong as, she started off pretty strong and I was interested in the character, but now it's like, I feel like they're stretching her character too far, and they have to make it to episode 6 because of this reveal, and if she's linked to this reveal, and it's like, hopefully that's even tied up in episode 6, because if it's not, then what was the point of stretching it this far, right? So I completely agree with him in that they don't know what to do with Renslayer at this point, and that conversation with B-15 is what are you still doing here if you're not believing in any, what's the point of this? So you're listening to that conversation and you're just wondering what the hell's going to even happen in episode 6. And she's already feeling this way. It's what more can be shattered to Renslayer? What else could possibly happen, right? Unless it's this reveal. And if it's Miss Minutes, this reveal, it's going to be kind of okay, mediocre. If that happens, to be honest, if it's Miss Minutes, I'm going to be pretty disappointed. But yeah, it's why are you 6 episodes. Like, pace it properly for the writing of this character, you know? So
yeah, that's a good point. And again, and tossing it to you, Griff. We see that she was once a Minuteman, and she seemed to have got a promotion from a Minuteman to a judge after a pretty epic failure at work, which is letting a variant let go. And this is a Nexus event type of variant. So how does she get that promotion within itself? So again, is it just like, I don't know, is she sticking up for, I don't know, man. Griff, help us out, man. What's going on with Renslayer? Is there some hope for this character to get some a good storyline?
I think when you take into account that flashback, it's really it's weird. It's so her motivations become a little bit more unclear. But I think if you take that out of it, I honestly think Michael in the chat said it best. He said that she's like a Black Trump supporter, and I think that's that's basically what she is right now. And I think that's pretty easy to sort of digest, at least right now. Obviously, it'd be great if we understood more of like where her fanaticism came from, why she is like devoted herself to this cause, even when she finds out that it's not what she thought it was. I think the interesting thing with her is that it sort of is like she's using the idea of the timekeepers or whatever to as like an excuse to commit these wrongdoings and whatnot. And it would be great if that was the angle they're sort of going with, that she's just genuinely an evil person like that and believes these horrible things. Because then, I mean, you can take the analogy a little bit further, and you can draw comparisons to people who cite religion when committing like really bad things. So but the problem with that is that flashback, because that's where you're like, there is something more to her going on here. There's like, she's got like a chip on her shoulder or something that she just, maybe she just hates variants because, or at least everything that's going on with the Lokis because of what happened to her, and she's just holding this grudge, which is just a really sort of like lame reason for her to be so devoted to this whole thing. So I don't know. I mean, I am hoping that sort of gets cleaned up a little bit in the final episode, and I think they definitely could. They just maybe need like a scene or something to sort of like explain it a little bit more. But that would be my only gripe with it, just because I do like how they're between her and Mobius, two people who have found out that the thing that they're serving is bullshit.
It's all fake.
We see two different responses to that, and I enjoy that, even if we don't fully understand who Renslayer is as a person.
And this is the gift of the curse, and tossing it to you, Chris. Marvel, we know that these characters are contracted, which is funny enough, the contracts are shorter than what they used to be. But hey, we might not get a solution to Renslayer because she's going to have another solution in another story, in another show, or another movie. So that is kind of the sad thing about how Marvel, the world building is there, but sometimes you want the answers right there. But where are you at with Renslayer, man? And do we have hope that this is a conclusion that we can expect next week?
Where am I at? I'm still in love. Well, no, but I'll be really brief here. And the whole time watching this episode in particular, especially seeing the Alioth and learning some of the background on that, I think the only way to salvage this is the Kang connection. I don't think that there's a way around it. I think if they can flip that and say, okay, yeah, she does know what's going on. Miss Minutes knows what's going on. She's just playing everybody. She's working with Kang. That's how she got her promotion. Not like she set the way to the top. I'm just saying, like, I think that's the only way to like salvage it. Relax.
I didn't want to say nothing.
Relax.
She's wholesome. What are you talking about?
Yeah, man. She's getting a couple drinks here and there. She was man. She's a beautiful woman. Yeah, man, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Renslayer. I don't think you cast someone like Gugu just to, I don't want to say leave it like a Hayward type of situation. I don't know. I'm no offense to that actor, but you don't bring in Gugu just to be, just one and done type of a character. So hopefully they have something up their sleeve with this character, and fingers crossed. But just kind of briefly wrapping up and kind of really getting to the meat and potatoes, we go back to the episode with the moment where we get the reunion between Mobius, Loki, and Sylvie, and I love that Loki is just like a little kid. It's like, oh, my buddy's back. As they come up with this plan, which, by the way, I love that Sylvie's like, Loki, that was a pretty dumb idea. And the fact that you guys wouldn't go along with it make you guys just even sillier. But nonetheless, there is an important conversation we had between Mobius and Classic Loki regarding making a change. And that's another reason why Classic Loki does what he does towards the end of this. We get the moment with the blanket, which I found so funny. I don't know if Loki was trying to be a little player there, because he said he's cold, but he's a Bifrost. I don't know if Loki ever gets cold, so I don't know if this was him making a move, or because I still don't think this is a romance. I think it's like a true deep friendship. We still don't know what Sylvie's next event is, but wrapping it up, starting with you, Eman, if you want to touch on some of those beats, the blanket moment, the Loki, Classic Loki hearing this from Mobius, before we go up to this finale here. But just your take on those sequences there.
Loki, a straight up player.
How do you
Boy ain't never felt cold in his life.
It's cold here, right? And she's
it was just. I love that scene. I thought it was so cute.
Listen, let me tell you something. I did that same move with my wife. Get out of here, Loki. You ain't fooling nobody. Okay. No, but it was a touching moment. I mean, this is just, I think, emphasizing the whole idea of Loki actually caring for someone more, besides himself. This is obviously a huge elevation in Loki's character. And for me, I mean, while that was cool, I mean, we've kind of already seen that, with Loki kind of feeling for Sylvie and stuff. For me, it was the hug with Mobius that got me the most. I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, my man Loki got a friend. And I'm playing the song in my head, you got a friend in me. Because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like he finally got a friend, because this whole time he's never really had a friend, and he's always pushed people away, even when they try to be his friend or try to love him. So I thought that was really, really touching. And I that moment out of all of them just really stood to me, especially when we saw Loki's face when Mobius got pruned. And he was just so hurt. Like he was almost as hurt when he heard that Sylvie had gotten pruned, So that to me was really good payoff. That was a really good touching moment. And I just love that. I just love that.
That is, it's a great moment. And Amanda, if you want to pick any of those moments, the conversation with Mobius and Classic Loki, this hug, the blanket, wherever you want to go with it, stage is yours.
I'm obviously going to talk about the blanket. I thought it was really cute, but it's not like, that's not a best friend type of situation. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, they're besties. I'm like, if I looked at my best friend like that, come on. Like there were like glances. It's romantic. Like it's not platonic. There's no way. But they had this bond, they had this connection, and like it was great to have that moment with the two of them. And they're feeling something. So it's new to them. And I know that Sofia DiMartino, actually, there was an article that came out today that she kind of explained the journey that Loki and Sylvie go on, and it is like love. So they don't recognize that feeling. So it's like baby steps to kind of understand it, right? So I love that. And then the hug with Mobius, it was just really cute, because it's like, yes, Loki has a friend. Like, we're just so happy about that, and the hug. And then Mobius says, like, you're my favorite to Sylvie. And it's like, that's all of us pretty much saying it now, because Sylvie's amazing. But I thought it was a couple of great moments, a string of great moments. And it's good.
Yeah, I agree. Griff, man, your take on any of those moments here? Did any of them stand out more than others for you, man?
I loved that moment between Sylvie and Loki, because they're both really like awkward about it. I mean, Loki puts on the moves and whatnot just because he's got that charisma. I think, but it is like a very awkward sort of like, I've never been in this position before. I've never loved someone before other than myself. And, obviously the irony being that Sylvie is a version of himself. The only person he could fall in love with. But I think what makes that relationship work for me is the fact that, like, Sylvie, she doesn't even go by, like, Loki or anything like that, right? Her name is Sylvie. She has a driven purpose. The events that happened with the TVA long ago set her on a new path, and she is her own person separate from Loki, which is, I think, what he sort of admires about her, and that's sort of like why he is finding himself falling for her. It's like, yes, they have these similarities, these things that they can that he can relate to with her about, but like she is the aspirational version of him, and him being with her is what makes him a better person. So like the relationship, I think, could have been really poorly handled in lesser hands, but throughout the course of this show, I have really bought into their relationship. And then we get that moment there, and it's just like both of them have been so preoccupied with just like everything else that when they finally get a moment together, it's just sort of like there is like this little awkwardness that comes with it. And I thought it was beautiful, and just the dialogue exchange between the two of them was really sincere. So.
Yeah, and follow that up. And Chris, man, again, you can take whatever scene you want to highlight, my friend, but it is interesting to see that kind of back-to-back with Loki and Sylvie having a moment, this friendship. And I do want to note, too, I forgot to mention that they had this moment where they say, after all this, what are you going to do? And they say, well, maybe we can figure it out together. That, to me, is like the kiss of death. Whenever characters say that, it doesn't always play out well. There's no happy ending, no rainbow at the end of a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But that moment, and then follow it up with him saying his goodbye to Mobius. Chris, man, your take on these lovey-dovey moments?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's over.
The death wish.
No, I think to me the blanket was the moment for me when he finally adds her to the blanket, like he has that stupid smirk. I still wanted to kiss. I don't know if I'm just a freak, but I was like, yo, when are they gonna make
Game
out?
of Thrones, man. You've been watching much Cersei and Jaime Lannister.
Man, I was like, why is he not going for the smooch? For the smoocheroonie. But I always think about, like, the Mobius hug is big too. But if you think back to Loki, obviously seen Loki, like, of course he betrays his partners and friends all the time, but you can tell he kind of like likes that moment. Like, walking through the hallway with Thor, turning into Captain America and all that, he enjoys that moment. Yeah. We have a Hulk, like he's like, okay, I'm here with you guys. I'm part of this team. So I feel like we've always seen him like just on the cusp of like having a friend or like being a team. And then, when Thor tells him, like, I thought we'd fight together for, go to battle forever. I thought the world of you. And you can see that kind of like affects him. So we're finally seeing him with like a friend that he doesn't betray, and then a girl that he likes. So I thought it was like a very like heavy moment for like what we've seen from Loki in the past.
Yeah, man, it's the heart of the show is Loki being destined to be alone, but we see that's not the case when you make that change. So 2 more points and we'll wrap it up. First, let's just lead up to this ending here as we see Sylvie and Loki going on against the Alioth. And by the way, and we had a discussion about this on Brandon's channel yesterday, Loki, Kid Loki, and Classic Loki, Alligator Loki deciding to stay on the Void. Good plan, bad plan? Do you guys have any issues with that? Do you think that the Kid Loki should have went with Mobius to go to any other timeline? Just briefly, Amanda, was it something?
I didn't even think of it, to be honest. I don't, it's like straight up. So,
Chris, any thoughts on should have went on the trip to somewhere else?
I didn't think about it either. I just thought they should stick together and then that's your leader. I thought it was a good angle of like just the kid being in charge. So I was like, just do as he says.
That was my whole thing, man. He's a kid; he can rule this world. But Griffin and Eman, did you guys have any takes on Kid Loki shouldn't have went with Mobius and had another timeline he should have went to, or are you guys cool with him being the ruler of the Void? Start with you, Griff.
No, I mean, like, it's cool with him being like, again, like they may or may not bring him back for the Young Avengers, but I am like totally cool and satisfied with him just being in this episode and whatnot. So I didn't really consider it, but I mean, it just sort of makes sense that just Kid Loki would rule. So
Brandon, I don't think you're gonna win this battle, man. Eman, did you have any takes on Kid Loki not taking that portal and going somewhere nice?
Not exactly, only because it doesn't mean that it's the end of Kid Loki. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. If we really want to get into the theory mode, there's a lot of stuff that's wide open. Matter of fact, even classic Loki could still come back for all we know. I mean, the man literally did say that he made a projection so great that the great Thanos, couldn't see through it. So are we going to think that he couldn't fool us? Did y'all notice, by the way, he made a projection during that big fight with all the other Lokis, and he teleported himself out of there. I need people to realize this man teleported. We ain't never seen Loki teleport without a Tesseract. This is how powerful that classic Loki is. So he could come back. Kid Loki could come back. We don't know what's going to happen when the TVA, if they get blown up, destroyed, whatever. So, I mean, I didn't really look too deep into it because I'm just like, it's so wide open. They can do so much.
You hear that, Brandon? You hear that? But wrapping it up, guys. So this is the big moment here. Classic Loki gets his moment of glorious purpose as Sylvie and Loki are kind of losing this battle at the point. By the way, I should say our Loki tries to sacrifice himself. He actually steps up and is willing to die to see if Sylvie's able to enchant it. But they ultimately are somewhat losing. But then this is where Richard E. Grant has his moment to shine as he recreates, as Eman brought up, this showing the power scale of Loki. Recreates Asgard, has his glorious purpose. He's taken out, and again, I think this episode and the show showing us Loki's always survived. So we'll see if Richard E. Grant has another appearance in the future. But nonetheless, if we're assuming he's gone, he went out on a high note as he has glorious purpose there, as his helmet is on the ground, and our Loki learns how to enchant as they team up, showing you what happens when Lokis work together. They get things accomplished as they enchant this Alioth, and Sylvie tells him to open his eyes and they can see a castle. And we'll get to our theories here in a bit, but before we get into that, starting with you, Eman, your take on Mr. Richard E. Grant saying goodbye for now, at least.
I mean, this was the icing on the cake. Like, if he wasn't already, an intriguing character, I was already enamored by his whole story and everything, because he showed Loki's true potential, right? He was just like, hey, if Loki were to ever go old and, focus on his magic, this is how dope he could be. And I love the fact that Loki heard that and saw it in action. And of course, to see him give to potentially do that big heroic sacrificial move, I think that is even more informative for Loki. But of course, as everybody's already said, Richard E. Grant just nailed this role. This was like easily one of the best moments, if not the best moment in the entire episode. I loved every bit of this. Are we only talking about this, or are we talking about the rest of it too?
We're going to save the little theories and what's in the castle in a bit, but yeah.
Yeah. But this moment right here for him was just, it was glorious.
Well said, man. Chris, your thoughts on Richard E. Grant having this glorious moment? Is he going to come back? And also just your thoughts on, again, him recreating Asgard, man. What a powerful individual.
Yeah, I like the moment. I like how Loki was able to see, like, damn, like, does that mean like I can do this shit? And I do. I the same thing Eman talked about earlier. Like, I thought the same thing. Like, he just said that he can create an illusion so great that he fooled Thanos. So like that was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh, he's not gone. He just did this. I don't know. I don't expect to see him in episode 6, but maybe down the line they can use that or whatever. But yeah, I thought it was a dope moment.
Griff, man, Richard E. Grant, glorious moment.
I mean, it was like the best moment of the whole episode for sure. Yeah. I also loved, it was so beautiful that he recreated Asgard, right? Like, he got to go home in a sense, which I thought that was beautiful. Yeah, I mean, like it's good for several moments, right? Like, it was important for our Loki to see this, to see like, what he is capable of, I think, from like a power standpoint, but then also from like a belief standpoint. Like, is he capable of, finding a higher calling and fighting for something greater than himself, which, Richard E. Grant, like you said, finds his glorious purpose, literally, by laying down his life for a variant version of himself, so that version can be better. But going back to the power thing, I think it's really interesting because for the most part, the MCU has treated Loki and his abilities like parlor tricks. They haven't really given it
the power skills are very lacking.
Exactly. And like, Loki is a god, right? Like Thor, like he is just powerful in a different way. And so seeing, this Loki, seeing what he's ultimately capable of doing, learning that, like, he could create a projection that's, someone else could kill and they wouldn't even realize it's not the real person, I think is just, and then, that going into this and seeing what this Richard E. Grant version is capable of, like, that was great. And then he's like holding Sylvie's hand and he's like, I think we're more powerful than we think we are, which that's sort of like a nice way of explaining why we haven't seen the extent of Loki's powers in the MCU. It's because he hasn't necessarily believed in himself and his ability to do this. He only thinks, in small little tricks ways. He only uses it for small things instead of like what he's capable of. So I loved it. Like again, to me, this is the moment of the episode.
Great point, man. And it ties it back to the conversation he had with Mobius. When he asked him, so what are you going to do when you go back to TVA? I'm going to tell the truth and burn it to the ground, and you can make that change. So, well said. And him going back home was a great moment, too. Amanda, before we get into our theories and wrapping up this final moment here, your thoughts on the glorious purpose, Richard E. Grant, and our two Lokis taking down the Alioth.
Richard E. Grant absolutely killed it. Like everyone pretty much like touched upon it, but he was incredible. And this scene was so cool. Again, like production value, you see all of it, the special effects, like it was just so amazing to actually witness that and the power that he has. So then like you have our Loki and then Sylvie like coming together to unlock something else in Loki and our Loki. So again, like the power sets like coming to the screen and seeing it in different ways. I think it was just a really nice moment. And oh my God, the helmet, just that helmet on the ground afterwards too. So it just, it was great. I thought it was such a strong way to end this episode going into episode 6.
Well said, guys. So, I mean, hey, let's just wrap it up. Eman, man, I wanted, I guess, to kind of pinpoint this moment here and go into our predictions and this whole, where are you at with it being Kang behind the scenes, it being, which I think it's a Loki behind the scenes and all that stuff, but just kind of wrapping up this kind of conversation with theories of what to expect, who is behind the TVA.
Yeah, I mean, so I like the idea of Loki or superior Loki being behind it all. I think, honestly, at that point, though, it's a little redundant just because we've already, I mean, literally, the whole show is about Loki versus Loki and the other Loki. I think it'll be a little bit too much to do that, even though I understand and I like that theory. I have already rejected the whole it's Kang all along theory, just because Marvel Disney Plus is not about to waste a huge villain on Loki. Like they're not. WandaVision, what do? They gave her a villain on her level. They gave her just a random witch, Agatha, on her level. They didn't give her Mephisto. They didn't give her some big bad. They didn't give her nobody. It was just that. Falcon and Winter Soldier. They gave her a little girl with super soldier serum. That's it. They didn't give him no big Dr. Doom.
Can't forget about Sharon, right? The power broker.
Man, stop it. But I'm just saying, like, they're not going to do these things because those bigger villains are for the cinema. That's for the millions of people around the world who might not be watching Disney Plus shows. And Kevin Feige's already said, you don't have to watch a Disney Plus show to go into the movie, but the movie is where the money resides. Okay, let's be clear. That's where they're gonna put all the big guns. That's where the mutants are gonna come. That's where Kang gonna come. That's where Dr. Doom is gonna come. So no, I don't think that we're gonna get that, but I do think we're going to get, and this was my theory, that we're gonna get a Kang variant. What people don't realize sometimes is that we've already been teasing this idea of variants. Give Kang a variant. He's had many variants in the comics. Nathaniel Richards, Immortus, which I think is probably the actual one. You can do a variant of Kang. Why? Because he's expendable at that point. You can kill a Kang variant, but us, the audience, we know Kang exists. So that's why I think they're going to go that route. I don't think they're going to waste it with a big bad villain of Kang's level. But the question after that is, what happens if they get rid of this Kang variant or whoever this person is behind the scenes? Then what? That's the real question of what's going to happen. Like, how does that feed into the multiverse of madness or whatever? So I'm intrigued. I'm more intrigued to see that development and how this ties into Doctor Strange, especially since the same writer for Loki is the same writer for Doctor Strange in the sequel. So that's where we're gonna have to go with that.
I don't. Is it okay if I jump in?
I would say, Griff, this is a lot to. Yeah, I would say there's a lot that Eman just laid on us, and again to piggyback off that, and also just your thoughts again. We got Jonathan Majors in the comic book shop last week.
He gonna show up.
It's so interesting too because they casted him so early. They casted him almost. It's so many, like, oh my goodness, Griff, man.
I 100% agree with what Eman is saying. I think there's a great video out there that Nando V Movies just put out, sort of explaining about Kang and like the different versions of Kang, and he kind of subscribes to that same theory where it's not going to be the Kang the Conqueror that we sort of are like anticipating as being the villain in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but more so just like the Immortus version or whatever. I forget. I think that's the name of him. Something like that. And I think that's a really interesting way to sort of introduce the character, because it's like we get this version of him. We get a taste of who he is, but ultimately he's not the Kang that we're going to come up against later down the road. So, like Kevin Feige said, like what you were saying, you don't have to watch these shows, but it will enrich your experience if you go into the movies. So I can totally see them dropping a variant version of Kang in this as the ultimate villain. That'll give people who watch both shows and movies like a nice little rush and give them a reason to watch both. But for those who haven't watched the show, it's not going to throw them off at all. And then also going back to the fact that it's like, I like Kang, like Jonathan Majors was cast really early on, and granted, maybe that's just because they were writing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and they wanted to get that role cast as soon as they could, but I wouldn't be surprised if it meant that he was going to kind of show up here in some capacity. It's one of those things where it's like, I won't be surprised if he's not in it at all, and I won't be surprised if he is in it. Right. If we're going for theories outside of Kang, I honestly have no idea, because I'm with you. I don't want it to be a variant Loki just because we've seen all of these Lokis, and it's like we've already gotten the point of like him coming into contact with like versions of himself that are not like the aspirational version of who he wants to be. So it's like it would almost be too on the nose if Loki had to confront the ultimate evil Loki at the end, who's in control of the TVA. Like that just doesn't really work for me. I think it'd be a bit lame of a conclusion. Outside of that, I mean, who knows? Maybe it's someone that I don't know. It could just be a random person, not necessarily tied to a pre-existing comic book character or whatever. I have no idea.
Yeah, Chris, man, the Kang stuff. I mean, the show has literally from episode 1, from that artifact that they found in the field, which is from the third millennial. We hear obviously Renslayer is a big thing. We have a pyramid in this episode, alluding to one of Kang's runs. And as Eman and Griff mentioned, we had an Easter egg with a Kang-owned building who is an alternate version of him of his sort. So I mean, they're all the Kang stuff is all there, man. But we know the MCU, and I'll use the Skrulls and the Mandarin for example, to take a storyline and put their own little funk on it. Now, if the funk turns out to be good or bad, we'll see what that comes to be. But where are you at, man, with this Kang being behind the scenes, a variant version of Kang, or who I think will be in, which is, we'll see how they execute it. I think it's going to be a Loki at the end of the day. But where are you at with it, man?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that Griffin and Eman said, I totally agree with. Starting with, if it is Loki, it's like that's kind of lame, because it's like we've been looking at Lokis the whole season. So that y'all episode 6 is the same, another Loki. I think we got out of hand with Mephisto. There was no evidence that it was Mephisto.
Yeah, that was a wildfire.
It was supposed to be Mephisto.
Yeah.
We talked about Mr. Fantastic. There was no evidence for Mr. Fantastic. We talked about X-Men. There was no evidence of X-Men. There's no evidence of Steve Rogers in Falcon. You cast this guy, so he exists. You give us Renslayer, you give us Alioth, you give us the fucking Avengers Tower with Kang. Like Griff said, if he's there, I'm not surprised. If he's not there, I'm not surprised, because I know how Marvel is. I just wanted or expected the Batman Begins Joker calling card. You get a little clue if this is what we're dealing with. I think if they just go with another Loki after we just seen 8,000 episode 5, I think it'd be like a letdown, and then be another. We've been kind of complaining, to say that, you use that word kind of
finales
correctly, about finales. But if you give us a tease, we can't complain, because it's still exactly what we wanted. And it leads to, and it explains the casting. And I think I think even Majors is being a little bit coy about it when they asked him about it. So I don't know. That's what I want to happen.
Something that's interesting that you just made me think of is, I mean, it could be Oh shit! I just lost what I was gonna say. I was like, oh shit. Now I remember. So we get that Easter egg of the Thanos copter, right? What if it's like some alternate version of Thanos? I mean, like I would hate that. But like,
no. Yeah.
I don't
You mean
know,
purple with the yellow boots?
Oh
Yeah.
no! Oh no!
Juggernaut
Oh
boots?
no!
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
Griff, man,
like
I'm kind of on that. Yeah, that now that you say that, that is kind of funny because who is the big bad behind the Avengers? It was Thanos who took out Loki. It was Thanos, but yeah, I hope if it's a purple Thanos from the shoes, that'd be.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the other thing. You have to think about what the TVA has been doing, right? And think about motivations. If it was Kang the Conqueror, if you know anything about Kang the Conqueror in the comics and stuff, Kang is a gangster. Kang does not play because he doesn't have to play. He's not about to go through the illusion of the TVA to do all this stuff. If he wants your multiverse, he's just gonna take it because he has the technology and the means to just do it. He's a conqueror, not a play behind the curtains kind of guy. So that's why I don't think it's Kang, because I'm like, Kang will just take it. I don't see that happening going through this whole facade, and that's why I think it's going to be something. I'm leaning on the variant thing only because the variant theme is the entire point of the show. Is that variants exist? Variants come in all different shapes and sizes. Variants come with different motivations, and I think that's the consistency that we're going to get, even if we've never seen Kang before or Jonathan Majors. I mean, just think about it like this as well. This is the last episode. We know Jonathan Majors is going to be in Quantumania, and you also think of it from a marketing perspective. That's going to make headlines when he shows up. If he shows up in the final episode, every article is going to be like, "Oh my gosh, surprise cameo!" Blah blah blah. It's going to blow up. It's going to keep people interested. It's going to get people logging in Disney Plus and signing up. That's where the money resides. It's a marketing ploy.
It's true.
Yeah.
Amanda. Go ahead, Griff. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think he's spot on. I don't think it is Kang, just because it would almost be like it would almost be too random just to say like, oh, it was this guy that you're gonna see in a later movie. It just that doesn't quite
the
work.
final episode introducing the Kang.
Yeah. I mean, I had another idea, which was just like, what if like the robot versions of the timekeepers were like representative of real timekeepers, and so they do exist in some capacity, but they're not like what we thought they were. I mean, like that to me sounds plausible, but again, Eman he's right on the money, because it's like the whole theme throughout the entire series has been variants and like differing versions of him, of Loki, and like the certain aspects of his personality being brought to the forefront. And so like, I guess realistically the only one we haven't come in contact with, as much as I don't think I'd really care for it just because it is so on the nose, is that like super evil version of Loki. So I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah,
man, it is a lot to bite on there. Your thoughts on the person behind the scenes? Is it a Loki? Are we looking at a Kang variant? Again, Sylvie, what was her Nexus event? And who wiped the TVA's memories? All that goes into this finale next week that we have to answer.
I just hope they answer some questions. They don't have to answer all of them, but I don't want more questions after like this finale, because it's all we've had for 6 episodes. There will be more questions, but honestly, I'm someone who needs everything. Like, that's just the way I am. Like, I need answers to everything, because I spiral. We all spiral. We've seen this. So, as we've seen with WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, those finales, the villains, the people that come out, it's very contained to their world. So I think that a name drop of Kang, hopefully because of Renslayer and that connection, if they want to do that, that would be okay. I don't think Kang's going to be coming in episode 6 at all. Again, because it's be contained. We're talking about variants. I completely agree with everything that has been said. So it makes complete sense for that to happen because of the setup in WandaVision with Agatha, and then with Power Broker. Like, we don't talk about that one, but like it's very contained to that storyline. So I agree that it could be a Loki variant, and hopefully it is that. I wouldn't be that upset, but if it's missed minutes, Like, disappointment.
That is a major fail. That would be a major fail.
That's Ralph
Unless
all
Miss
over
Menace
again.
was Ultron all along.
There you go. There you go.
It's done.
Listen, guys, next week has a lot of questions to be answered. Is it a Loki? And if it is it another version of Loki being controlled by someone bigger and badder than the Loki that we know? Only time will tell. And we have next week to get all these questions potentially answered. But this was a great conversation. We had a trilogy conversation. We looked at the What If trailer. We also had some incredible comments in the chat. And there was a super chat I don't want to forget here that was put in a little bit earlier. A question about the TVA. Let me just find it before we head out. Here it is. The question was asked, which again, thank you so much for the super chat. What is the TVA created the void originally for all the Lokis? Or maybe it's why the TVA created. What if the TVA created the? Hey, that could be the case. Even though we know that there's other things there besides Loki's, which I don't know. I'll rewatch this episode, guys. Just before we head out, is it possible that Mobius is a variant Loki? Because I was looking at a shot where all 4 or 5 Lokis on the screen together, and I don't know if this is just me theorizing, but Lokis all have green eyes, and Mobius. I don't know if Owen Wilson has green eyes, but they all have green eyes. Is Mobius a variant Loki that's going to be revealed next week?
It's interesting.
No.
When they're all on the hill, they all have green eyes. I wonder if that's a coincidence.
You know what? Let's do it. Like, let it happen.
I'm going to go with no, because he is his own character.
Yeah. Yeah. We got to get the jet ski. We got to get the jet ski.
Oh, now that's a absolute.
Got to get that.
No jet ski, we riot. It's that simple.
It is that simple. And guys, this has been, again, for everyone that tuned in, my guests, my co-hosts, you guys have been amazing. I can't wait to have this finale discussion. And again, let's go ahead and mark our calendars for that Quantumanium conversation about the best trilogy. But starting with you, Chris, my man, what's next? Oh, and briefly, Chris, I don't want to keep prolonging this, but quickly, Black Widow, I know you saw it today. Brief summary of how you feel about the film. Obviously, we'll talk about it more in the future. I just want to know where you at with Black Widow.
I'm being very brief, and I got a special shout out to one of our panelists. This is important. Before I went into Black Widow, you guys saw you guys watched it last week, all you cool little critics. So when you guys watched it, a lot of mixed reviews. It's too late. It's Florence's movie. You could take Scarlett out of it. I was like, it was a lot of this on the reviews. Until I saw my main man Griff post a video essay, and I did not watch it because I didn't watch a lot of reviews on it. I tried not to. I wanted to just go in. I didn't watch the video essay, but the title alone said something like, "This is why you need to give it a chance." And I was like, if I know my man Griff, this movie is gonna be good. Y'all are out of control. That's a good movie, and we're gonna talk about it on Sunday. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it on Sunday. That movie, like. I thought Marvel's always it never lets me down. It's gonna be a fine movie, whatever. It's better than Sunday. We'll talk about it. But Griff, I knew I liked this guy Griff from the fucking moment I saw this guy. Yeah, that guy.
How do we get over there?
Okay.
Elite.
Okay.
And I got emotional. I don't ever get emotional. I don't even have emotions. I don't even have feelings,
dude.
I'm a frost giant. My God.
Okay.
And then the comedy. You know me. I love the comedy. This girl fucking Florence Pugh is an all-star.
The superhero. Why do you do the post? Yeah.
No, and tell me that's not going to be a top 5 moment in all MCU.
Oh, it's so good.
My God.
Everything with David Harbour as Red Guardian. Oh my God. Unbelievable.
Okay.
So good.
Listen, I can't wait. I know, Griff, you have your review. My man Eman, Amanda has hers. Chris, I expect the review hopefully in the coming days, and we'll be talking. Just a quick plug on Sunday. There's a live panel that Mama Geekly will be hosting on our channel that we'll be diving deep into it. I can't wait to hear more of Chris's emotional moments of this film. But speaking of Chris, man, if you want to outro us out, man, let the people know where they can find you and all that fun stuff, my friend.
Yes, for sure. I am Chris Tait, representing Tait's Take. You guys can find me in the descriptions here. All my contacts in the link as well. I got my Instagram, Twitter, emails if you guys want to get in contact with me. Love being on the panel. I think my next video, if I can get a Black Widow out this weekend, I'll try to do it. usually I don't know if I was like, damn, it's like everyone reviewed it. Who cares what I think? But now I feel so inclined. But I do have a review coming for a new Netflix documentary that launches next week. It's called Heist. And it's like it's an actual documentary that talks about 3 different actual heists in American history. So pretty cool doc there. So I'll probably get a review out before that launches on Wednesday. So if you guys are looking for that kind of content, subscribe to your boy. I'm out here.
Do it. Do it. You heard him. Tossing it over to my other amazing co-host, Amanda. What's coming next on your platforms, and where can the people find you?
Yeah, well, my Black Widow review is up right now, so you can go check that out. I enjoyed it. I had fun. Not as much fun as Chris and Griff, but it was fun. Yeah, so I have that. I'm going to catch up on my Loki reviews because I've been behind, but it's not because I don't like the show. It's because, I've been behind. That's it. Yeah, so you guys can always find me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can check out my website, candidcinema.com. I have all my Fear Street reviews, and I'm really digging that on Netflix. I'm excited for part 3. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fear Street. Oh, I love me a good slasher. And again, guys, check out her content, Chris's content. All the links are in the bio. Do it. You're going to love it. To our special guests, starting with you, Griff, man. As you always know, my friend, it's always a great time having you on, a great discussion. So glad you were able to join tonight, my friend. But if you can let the people know where FilmSpeak can be found and what is the next great bit of content you got for the people out there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm just like thrilled that Chris loved Black Widow as much as I did. I was like, hell yeah, man. I wasn't, but no, make that video, man. Cut through the negativity. I'd love to see your thoughts on it. I think there's a lot of like people with preconceived notions about the film, like, oh, this should have come out like 5-10 years ago, and it's like, yeah, that's true, but don't hold that against the movie. Hold that against Marvel Studios. Nice. So, anyways, yeah, so you could go check out the video that Chris was talking about. My dive into like why I love the movie and why I think it is worth watching. That is Black Widow. You can check that out over on the FilmSpeak channel. Again, next week we have a Loki video coming out that I'm really stoked on. So that should be a lot of fun. And then I mean, who knows? From there we'll figure it out. But you can follow me personally on Twitter at Griff Schiller.
Yes, sir. Do yourself a favor, man. The guy is killing it, and I'm loving the content, Griff, as always. And last but not least, Eman, like I said up top, man, I'm a fan of every single one of you all. I'm so glad that we were able to get you on this channel, Eman. I love what you're doing with your community and what you have been doing, and the stuff you bring to the table is incredible, man. And I really appreciate you coming on tonight, my friend. If you can let the fine folks know where they can find you and what's next on Eman's movie review.
Yeah, and once again, thank you so much for inviting me on and having me on this great panel with everybody. Really enjoyed this conversation. Love the chat as well. I too have a Black Widow review up. I did like it, but I had differences of opinion, probably than others on this panel, and probably articulated in a different way that you might not have heard. So it's spoiler free. You can check that out if you like. But yeah, definitely come and check out the channel, Eman's Movie Reviews. The link is in the description. I think some of the I see my homie Rim17 is here, Mara Sharice. A lot of people in the comments could testify that we have a phenomenally great time during our live chats. We do Loki breakdowns 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Wednesdays, and then every Friday 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we go over all the latest news and everything. I try to bring the funk. I try to bring some fun to the whole thing. And yeah, we just always have a great time. As far as what's coming up, I teased it earlier in the video. I'll tease it again. I can't say who, but I'm going to just say that I'm going to have a very interesting interview coming up. This is going to be in a couple weeks. So you're going to want to subscribe. You're going to want to hit that bell for notifications, because I'm just going to drop it. I'm not even going to tell you when or what. I'm just going to drop it. You're going to be like, dang. So I just wanted to throw that out there. You're not going to be disappointed. Hopefully it'll answer some questions that were raised today. I'll leave it at that because I can't say much more than that. I can't say more than that. But yeah, check me out.
Hey guys, if that's a tease, man, that is the tease of all teases right there. I can't wait to see what Eman has up his sleeve. Eman, Griff, Chris, and Amanda, as you guys know, I appreciate you every single week. Can't wait to discuss next week's finale. It was a fun discussion, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate every single one of you all that joined us tonight. Again, if you're watching us on replay, like, share, comment, subscribe to all these great content creators. Be safe out there. Check out Loki, or I should say, check out Black Widow, and let me know what you feel about Taskmaster. But I'll just leave it at that. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great time. You all be safe and have a great weekend.
Peace.